morning, changemakers. Welcome to Ignite, a day designed to fuel your MBA journey with insights, inspiration, and impact. This is not just another event. This is your backstage pass into the world you are stepping into, from Google to BCG and everything in between. We know you have worked hard to get here, and today we celebrate that. But more importantly, we equip you for what's coming next. From cracking dream companies to building a killer resume, we have got it all lined up. So let's turn the volume up on ambition and get ready to ignite your MBA. Here's a short video in it. To kick things off, we are diving headfirst into the secret to cracking dream companies. Think Google and Amazon. How do you stand out in the sea of resume? What really matters beyond your CGPA? Our stellar speakers are here to tell you exactly what it takes to get your foot in the door and thrive once you are in. Asking them burning questions, we have students like you, Neil and Ishita, who will be starting their MBA journey this season. Now, let's get started with our esteemed speakers. We have with us Richa Sharma, Senior Recruiting Business Partner from Amazon, and Shashank Srivastav, Principal Account Manager from Google. Welcome all.
Hi, Shashank.
Ishita, you know what? There used to be a phase during our schools and colleges wherein we used to know each other through some fun activities.
I agree, and I genuinely think we should not start bombarding idea panelists with hundreds of questions. So let's start small.
Okay, to keep it simple, the rules are very clear. We'll start with a rapid fire round and promise this will be really fun. So to start with, the first question to all my panelists is networking or grades. If you would like to pick one, which would be much more critical in your post MBA job, what would you choose personally?
I will get us started. And I would say networking all the way, because it helps you build long-term value. It helps you learn from your peers. It helps you learn from your mentors and much more. Right? It goes beyond just learning what you are shown in what you're taught in the classroom. But having said this, grades matter too.
What about you, Shashank?
I think depends on phase of your career. Like if you are in college, as rightly told by Richa, grades will matter because that will help you with the initial shortlist. But maybe 2-3 years down the line, it's networking that will unlock doors for you. Be it getting that role which everybody aspires, or be maybe growing in your own organization. Networking will play a big role there.
Definitely. Okay, so I'm curious to know if not your current job, what would have been your dream job if skills and salaries were not in question?
Shashank, you wanna get us started here?
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, already I have a social media presence out there. So if salary was not a constraint, maybe we'll continue doing content creation because it helps me bring impact at a scale. So a lot of working professionals follow the page and then they get to learn. I also learn from them. So this might be something that I'll explore maybe in a parallel universe. Over to you,
So
Richa.
as a student, Google is my dream job because it is much more fascinating. So there are a lot of stories around the sleeping pods. Is it true that employees use all those things in Google?
I to have not used them in last 7 to 8 years because generally you enter office at 9, then you have something to take care of till 5 or 6. But yeah, initially what we call a noogler phase. So initial 6 months you have little less responsibility because you are just ramping up. So those are the time when you explore this. I will be completing close to 10 years, and in last 4 or 5 years I have never used any of these facilities. For me, it's more about sitting with people, learning what they are doing, and then maybe upskilling myself at work as well. So facilities, keeping them aside, I think your focus should be kind of people and intellectuals you interact with in your office. That should be the key criteria.
What about you,
Okay, so
Akshay?
what about you, Ritza?
On the first question, if I was not doing what I'm doing right now, travel, of course, I would have made some travel content. While I'm not good at it, I would say maybe doing some home improvement projects, some interior decoration stuff like those. So yeah, that passionates me.
That could have been interesting.
So, if I were told you that if you want to give a one life tip to your students who are just joining the colleges or who are in the colleges, what helped you outside of your work? What would it be?
Mm, I would continue from my previous answer around networking, and I would say build meaningful friendships outside of your circle because it helps you stay grounded, it helps you get fresh perspectives, and that's going to take you a long way. So that's going to be my answer.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add on top of that. So start talking with people who are not similar to you. By that I mean that, say if you are coming from a particular background, generally what happens during MBA college, our first go to people or maybe communities are where we feel ki we belong. So you should start deviating away from it. Talk with people who are coming from, say, FMCG background, finance background. You will learn some different aspects and things that they have done in their job, because generally people who are having similar profile as yours might be good friends but not a value add in terms of learning something new. So if you're getting into MBA college, at least try to gel up with people from diverse backgrounds.
Got it. Got
Okay, so I have an interesting one. Considering how important our smartphones are a part of our life, so if you could have been an app, say Google Maps, always navigating, Spotify, that rhythm and flow, what would it be?
I think I can take a shot at it. So for me, it will be Notebook LM because it is super handy. It absorbs all the information and then gives you a very short summary which covers everything. So it basically understands, gives a structure to your thought, and it has been super handy for me. Like from the day at work, where if I have to go through 10, 12 documents to learn more about what is happening, I just put it in Notebook LM, convert it into a 10, 12 minute podcast, and I listen to it. So that will be the one app that I will definitely use.
Okay.
Okay, I have, I'll say Amazon as an app. And why not? Who doesn't want to be super versatile, super customers obsessed, and of course, delivering smiles. And sometimes, even before others know what they want, you're there delivering it. So, Amazon is my response.
Okay.
I would be Zomato, impressing people with one-liners.
Love to hear that.
Nice, nice, nice. So, I wanted to ask you, what is your biggest fear? So I am about to start an MBA. My biggest fear is that there are similar looking resumes around me. There are peers who would be standing with me with those activities, those certifications. How would I stand apart from that crowd?
And actually, I have noticed that a lot of people have started their personal brand on LinkedIn, but I'm not sure will I be able to continue it once I join MBA colleges.
So, would love to know from you, panelists. There are so many CVs that you are looking at. What do you focus while shortlisting a candidate? And let's say, I've also heard that in Amazon there are different hiring styles. Might be no CV, no JD, just the interviews. So, what do you actually check to get oneself hired?
That's a very good question, and I absolutely resonate with the fear you called out because when I was starting my MBA journey, that was the first thing. Ki, what all should I do to be there on top of a recruiter's hot list? But having said that, I think that's a very traditional form of recruiting wherein you're looking at resume, shortlisting individuals, and we all know how resumes are made, right? There's a template given, everybody's doing the same kind of project, same academia, everything is similar. So that's precisely why at Amazon we have done away with CV screening. We don't do CV screenings here. We rely on our tech. We have an in-house online assessment which helps us identify where you fit well. So when you go through the whole assessment, it will give us a response which says, okay, hey, maybe, I am good at management roles, or maybe this individual is good for an ops role or a finance role. And of course, we do ask students where their preference lies before we shortlist them. But having said that, the entire process is based on skill assessment, right? What skills you bring on the table. And at Amazon, I would say one something that truly differentiates you from another candidate would be your mindset. And at Amazon, we truly value your builder mindset, your ability to problem solve. I think those are skill sets which at least I look at as a recruiter, and I'm sure all other recruiters at Amazon do stress on some of these skill sets. And the other bit to it is the leadership principle alignment. We don't call it really a cultural fit, but are you leadership principle aligned? Which also is a way how Amazonians live and breathe and do things at work, and at times even beyond work. That's a different story. But that's precisely my response to how do you stand out. And I would say skill matters more. So the focus should be on building skills, learning building your own personality. You spoke about LinkedIn, right? Of course, you can write a lot of posts. You can do all of those, but are you evolving as an individual? Are you evolving as a professional? I think that should be your core motto when you join an MBA institute.
Got it. So
Right.
Shashank is, I think, very much active in LinkedIn, so he might have some perspectives.
I'll tell you there are two things. So I think Richa very beautifully covered the whole aspect, but there are certain foundational things if I talk about from Google point of view. So first of all, the role that you are aiming or aspiring for, at least there should be 80-85% match with the profile that you are currently in. So it not be like that you are coming from a completely different background and you are thinking that you will get a shortlist for a role for which you are not a great fit. So first of all, that foundation needs to be in place. So if you are in MBA and you want to get into say account management role, the team that I am part of here. So it's basically a sales role. So you have to make sure that you have flavors of sales in your resume as well. It not be like that maybe you're coming from say some doing some analyst kind of internship and you're expecting to get a sales shortlist. So that foundation skill need to be there. Now on top of that, like you rightly pointed out, LinkedIn layering needs to come in. So say generally what I also do or people in my team also do, when we get the resume, we read the resume, we go through the LinkedIn profile as well. So it's better that you keep on talking, you keep on sharing the work that you're doing on LinkedIn as well, because that will again lock some additional roles for you. So both of these are important. And in MBA college, generally you read a lot, you go through a lot of journals, you do a lot of projects. So it's better to start writing and maybe maintain a frequency of 2 to 3 articles every week on LinkedIn, so that your resume gets topped up with the knowledge that you are sharing on LinkedIn as well, and that will come handy. And that is one thing that will differentiate you from others as well.
Got it.
Okay, so continuing the conversation, why do in general companies use resume? As Richa pointed out, that skills matter the most. And being a pre-MBA student, my CV includes bunch of projects and assignments, and I would love to get into projects which actually reflects my real world skills. So, Richa, you have hired in such way where you know the resume and actually focus on skills. Do you notice any kind of pattern in the quality of candidates you roll out of the skill?
I would say a yes, and maybe also share what when I talk about skill building, I'm also talking about a lot of these things that you pick at your MBA campuses or curriculum through case studies, through case competitions, right? But I'll come to that in a bit. But to your first question first, which is on resume shortlisting, my only hunch is, and as a recruiter who has worked across multiple organizations, I've seen there's no difference, and that has been a common woe which my business partners or my interviewers would come back to me saying, hey, how do I differentiate one resume from the other? They all look the same. And then
Hmm.
maybe there would be a layering of say okay, can we look at the extracurricular activities that maybe demonstrates some of the leadership qualities or some of their problem solving qualities, right? So which at the end comes back to skills.
Okay.
CGPAs, I know on MBA campuses, is not published in the first year. So there's no way to shortlist versus 3GP. And they've all made it. They've all made it to amazing campuses. So there's no point of doing another CAT after they have made it to the tier 1, tier 2 institutes, right? So skills continue to be another layering wherever anyone is also even doing a resume shortlisting. I'm sure they're also looking at extracurricular. They're looking at which clubs you're part of. They're also looking at which case competitions you've worked, you've won, or you've participated in. So all that come back to skill building. And at Amazon, at least 40 to 50% of my internship hiring happens through the case competitions, because that's where individuals are participating, solving a live case, live problem statement on behalf of Amazon and its customers, right? So through that entire 1 month or two, the individuals are demonstrating so many of the leadership principles that one would like to look for in a candidate. And maybe a 40-minute or a 30-minute conversation might not do justice to something that you're picking through these interactions versus here. So
Hmm.
I would say it's skill building, and it has worked for us.
Sure, sure.
Do you want to add something, Shashank?
I think coming to that original question, that why resume shortlisting exists. So understand that we as a market, there is demand and supply. So demand is huge. There are many candidates who are graduating every year, and the supply of jobs, like in top tech companies also, they can't cater to all the job requirements, right? So there needs to be a filtering criteria in place. So there are two ways to go about it. First is resume based shortlisting, and second, as Richa rightly pointed out, that is case study based. So say if you feel that your resume is not strong enough, or you feel that maybe my resume is similar to what others are having in the campus, then the good way is to start applying for these case study competitions. Even during my tenure at IMT Ghaziabad, I took part in somewhere close to 20 national case study competition, won some 12 out of it, and through that I was able to get one or two pre-placement offers. So I was having a soft cushion with me, because I knew ki even if my campus placement doesn't go through, I have at least two offers with me that I can use, or maybe I can join those organizations. So if you feel that your resume is not, we go with the case study competition approach, but resume will continue existing because there is a demand and supply issue which is going on. So not all the big companies can cater to all the demand. So it will exist. If you have to make sure either you work on your resume or you complement it with a case study based approach.
Got
If
it,
I
got
would just add to what Shashank said, I love the way how he's spoken about, existing off resume. As recruiter, I've seen a layering of tech happen. So whenever there's resume screening in a traditional format, you would have recruiters or maybe business leaders read through the resume. I think now there is a layering of tech, which helps narrow down the funnel from so many candidates applying to what we need. So if that continues, I think that will come in with a twist, and which MBA students should be prepared for, as to how do they write their resumes in a way that it differentiates them. So it's all about branding yourself, right, be it on LinkedIn or on the resume.
nice,
Right.
nice, nice.
Okay.
So Richa and Shashank, I've also heard that there are many students in the interviews. So after the interview is over, they'll ask much more questions. They are very curious to know about the company. They'll genuinely ask questions. So is it encouraged? Does it actually set a perception of a candidate that, okay, this is a part of the crowd?
Maybe
I
I can take a shot, because this last week only I took some 7, 8 interviews, not of MBA students, but people with work experience. So I think asking questions is good, but you should be asking the right questions. Like most of the time, see that candidates are asking me questions around how did our interview went. If you have to answer this question, what would be your response? So these
Hmm.
things generally you should have an understanding that the feedback will be relayed to the recruiter, and recruiter will reach out to you. You can't be asking the interviewer these kind of questions, getting the genuine feedback. But there are candidates who stand out. So their questions are very structured. It's structured around the type of role they are interviewing for, what kind of trajectory they can expect, what kind of projects we are currently doing, what kind of profiles we are looking at. So those questions tend to land well. So if you are asking questions, make sure that you are asking meaningful questions, and don't just for sake of asking questions ask questions, because it might give a perception that you are not serious regarding the particular interview, or you have not done enough preparation for it.
Get it.
I'll do a plus one to that, Shashank, right on point. And personally, as a recruiter, I love my candidates who ask me questions, because it's a two-way process, right? As much as we are evaluating you, you're also evaluating the organization. You would want to know if this is the place I would want to spend my half of my life So having said that, yes, right, asking the right questions is important. Asking questions showcase that you are A, prepared, you've done your homework about the organization, about the role. B, it shows interest, that you would love to learn more. But right, if it's not meaningful questions and if you're talking just for the sake of asking a question, it's easy to see through. So just be yourself, have a conversation, and treat it like, you know, an organization that you would like to spend time asking questions with. And maybe the same even applies to the pre-placement talks or something when an organization is on your campus. Couple of times I've seen students ask a question just because they've been told to ask a question, um, which is not really recommended. My 2 cents here would be that there's been the team is there, you have an opportunity to ask, and the best of people visit your campus, right? So this is an absolute gem of an opportunity to ask what you really want to know about the organization. So make the most of it rather than getting into very theoretical and class participation kind of questions. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Okay, got it. Talking about resumes, I have heard from a lot of seniors, and also Richa mentioned it earlier, about the cultural fit of an organization.
Mm-hmm. And so, if you're talking about Ishita, cultural fit, I also wanted to know what exactly a cultural fit is. So, Richa mentioned about leadership alignment. So, let's say I've also heard about work-life balance. Is that also a part of cultural fit? And there is so much, panels. There is so much hustle about this hustle culture, right? I've seen many LinkedIn posts about various founders, right? Hustle culture is important. So, in established companies like yours, Google and Amazon, how that hustle is taken ahead, like what are the parameters to it?
Saurabh, you wanna go first?
Yeah, sure. So I think when we talk about hustle culture, understand that in both startups and these organizations, they operate on a different tangent. So in a startup, a person might be having two, three roles. Like you guys are there, you are doing this. Maybe after this, you will be going ahead and activating marketing campaigns. Post this, you might be doing some podcast as well. But in organizations such as Amazon and Google, there is a structure in place. There are different teams, and each team has their own key responsibilities and the maybe targets that they are achieving. They are trying to optimize for. So hustle culture is not there, but you need to be having a structured approach when you are planning to join these organizations. And if I talk about what is a cultural fit is that if you are joining the organization, you are growing with the organization, and the organization also benefits from you. So you both become a kind of, there is a gridlock between both of you, and you both then grow and proceed together in that journey. So like in Google, we test googliness. So googliness is nothing. Googliness is that when you are given an option to do the thing, you will always do the right thing. So it basically means that if there is a structure in place, you will follow the structure, you will not bypass the structure. Or also, if there is a situation and you feel that you have to step up to that situation, you will step up to that situation. So chaos, maybe it's good if you're planning for roles in say startups, but if you're coming to these organizations, you have to be structured because there are already processes in place. So might be in 2011, 2012, Flipkart might be having a chaotic structure where everybody was doing everything. But if you look at Flipkart right now, 2024, 2025, there are different teams. Each team has their own OKRs. They are proceeding in that direction. So now there is a structure to it. So it's also, you have to decide where you would thrive and then take the decision.
Plus one to the hustle culture. I think it's more of just the word out there. Hustle culture, in my mind, is nothing but ability to deliver. And in organizations, nobody is checking on how many hours you're spending in the organization. It's as long as the work is getting done. So it's about not the number of hours, but the impact one delivers through their work, which is important. And with reference to cultural fit, like I said previously, at Amazon, it's not, we don't really call it culture fit, we call it leadership principle alignment. And these are nothing but ways to say, how do you make decisions? How do you solve problems? How do you drive results? Or how do you deliver projects, right? Some of these aspects. And it, it means in a way that the work assessment, for instance, the online assessment that we do, it also is a way for us to know that, hey, what is your work style, if it's going to align with that of Amazon. And it's again tying back to the leadership principles, which talks about, will you showcase bias for action, or will you showcase ownership when you're doing things, or will you show customer obsession, which is absolute core and necessary when you join an organization like Amazon. So these are just parameters and baselines for you to be a strong candidate for the organization, and of course help set you up for success, and you should be able to deliver in the organization structure. That's precisely what cultural fit is. Rest all, I think, could be taught, rest all could be imbibed, rest all could be learned, but not how you are and who you are as an individual.
Okay.
Okay, so talking about personalities, say I am someone who do not have anything extraordinary in my resume. I have been a topper throughout my life. I come from an IIT and joining an IIM. So would knowing my academic background actually makes a difference in getting me hired?
From a from a shortlisting standpoint, like I previously said, at Amazon we don't do
Hmm.
resume shortlisting.
Resume.
Everybody is welcome to apply to the role that we have opened on the campus. The online assessment, which is a science-based, tech-based format, will tell us whether you're fit for that role or not. Of course, we'll also ask you whether you are keen on applying to this role or not, and based on which we'll then proceed for the interview. But of course, there are technical roles wherein we do need some technical understanding. For instance, if you're applying to a finance role, we would want you to come with some finance background or some inclination, some certifications, because these are things you cannot be these are things which cannot be taught right from the base, right? You will need to have some fundamental understanding, and of course the team will help you. You have the best of minds in the team to help you build on those skills that you have acquired, or the fundamentals you've acquired. Having said that, your extracurricular, again, will help set you apart. If you're not the topper on your batch, sometimes students come and ask us, or maybe sometimes interviewer come and ask us, hey, the person is a fresher, how do I evaluate these individuals? And our response to that is, please focus on what they have done in their 2 years of MBA, and the leadership based questionnaire, or maybe the star format of interviewing that we do, helps us identify past um, successes that you have demonstrated. So maybe the situation, the task, and the action you took, or what result did you get in a particular situation. And it doesn't really have to be an office setup or a experience setup. For instance, if you are a sports captain in your MBA or in your school, I'm sure that's a great leadership quality that you can, a great leadership story that you can form out of it. Or if you're on a debating team, again, these are places wherein you're picking up experiences, you're learning a lot of these skills on how do you work with team members, how do you deliver results, how do you work under pressure, how do you work with ambiguity. So these are, I think, life skills which any organization, not just Amazon, any organization would love in an MBA student.
So, Rich, a follow-up question on this. So, you mentioned about skills are also very much important, but I remember Shashank mentioned that to get the first round clearance, you need a good academic background, right? But let's say if there is a student who is decent in academics but very enthusiastic in co-curriculars, extracurriculars, being into sports, into theaters, he has done many things apart from just academics. How to go through that first particular cut, the first screening level? Shashank, if you can comment on this, because you mentioned that.
Yeah. So just to add on, I think I'll give more clarity on what I meant to say. Foundational things need to be there. So I was not a topper at IMT Ghaziabad. I was an average student. So my CGPA was also 7.1 kindish. It was never 8.5. But at least the foundational thing were there. So if somebody is coming, they are putting, say, a CGPA filter of 7, my profile will make the cut. After that, what I have done co-curricularly, like I talked about case study competitions, or I spoke about maybe going ahead and doing these 12-20 competitions, that gave me a diverse view of what's going on, and then that helped me build my profile. So if I talk about foundational, though, that is non-negotiable. It's not like that you can be at a 4 or 5 CGPA and you can expect the shortlist to come. Having said that, at Google, the people who were shortlisted, they were having CGPA of 6 and above when I was there back in 2015. So that time the CGPA criteria of Google was much lower compared to other companies which were coming, especially FMCG and all. They were having a criteria of 888 throughout. So foundational, so you have to build up, and top of that, as Richa also pointed out, you have to have a layer of skills that can be done through these competitions or extracurricular activities.
Got it.
Richard, would you like to add something?
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would say there are organizations which do have CGPA cutoffs, and there are organizations that do not have CGPA cutoff. But
Right.
every organization is looking for the right talent for the right job. So I'm sure there are other ways to filter it out, and with tech evolving so much, there are
Right.
ways in which you will get filtered out if you don't know what you're talking, right? If you're not being yourself in your interview. These are trained individuals who are meeting you for the discussion, right? They will see through if you're passing through the interview. So you should know if you're talking about, hey, my favorite subject is organizational behavior or whatever, accounting. The minute the conversation starts, there will be a question that will come your way. Hey, why don't you talk about this framework or this concept? And if you do not have your technical functional understanding right, you will fail through that. So you've gone to an MBA school to learn something, so at least get your fundamentals right. Of course, rest all is building on it, and that's the differentiator we started our conversation with. Everybody gets the same platform to learn. What you do of that platform is what is the differentiator factor. And having said that, you spoke about being a topper, and someone spoke about being an extracurricular person, right? I'm sure organizations like Google and Amazon are looking for diverse candidates. And Shashank also spoke about it. At Amazon, we are solving for a diverse customers. Our customer base is so diverse. We want individuals with diverse mindsets, diverse skill sets to come in. And I think it's excellence that shines through beyond anything else. So that's going to be my 2 cents on this.
Yeah. I think Richa rightly pointed out, and she is also giving a sneak peek into what you can expect in future. So, like with AI coming in and it making an intervention during the interviews now, AI can easily detect whether you are giving the right answer, what's are your say, how are your facial expressions, and all of those things are getting baked. There are startups based out of US who are doing this, and I think very soon it will be here in India itself. So you can't be faking it. So basically, if you're going to MBA college, go with a mindset that you have to at least study a bit. It can't be like that, say I have 2 or 3 CGP and companies are not shortlisting me. So hard work needs to go from your side, and that needs to be layered with the skills. So CGPA is the least thing that you should be considering. You should be focusing right now on learning, because these are the 2 years which you are getting and you should fully utilize them. And if you are doing proper things in place, then even though whatever CGPA you will have, you will land up in any of these good companies because your temperament is right.
And Shashank, that's a very interesting point you made around AI, and you're trying to solve something around it because we know how smart the new generation is, and in interviews, how AIs are being used. That's a recruiter's woe in the current scenario. But you can crack that interview, but when you come to work and you have real problems to solve, there's no AI to support you. How long would you last? So you're not doing in yourself any favor by cracking interviews through AI, but not knowing your baseline or your fundamentals.
Okay, so we talked about diverse background. I have a follow-up question. Say I am someone from a psychology degree. I do not come with a common degree of say BCom or BMS. And how tough it's gonna be for me to get into a tech-driven company like Google or Amazon.
And there are also my friends are there, right, they ask me various questions that okay, there are XYZ degrees or qualifications needed in a placement drive because companies only ask for it. Let's say we don't have those huge degrees or fascinating degrees. You talk about upskilling, right? So let's say case competitions, but how many case competitions are required to actually get into company? So okay, what are the ways of upskilling, if you can give us clarity there?
I can start, maybe Richa can chime in. So, see, generally for any role, there are certain fundamental set of skills which are required. If I talk about sales role, you need to be good with talking, you need to be good with relationship, stakeholder management, you need to be good with numbers. So, say if you're coming from a background where you have not experienced any of this, it's better to start building that muscle. And I generally, people keep on asking me how we should be going about it. One is the case study competitions. There is no number to it. If you are doing say 2 or 3 case competitions which are sales driven, you'll get to understand that. But you also need to have then some kind of practical or on the go training as well. So during the MBA tenure, when I was at IMT, there was a concept called a short term project. So these projects used to come in the campus where companies used to give you an assignment and you need to engage with them on a 2 or 3 month basis. Like I was coming from a traditional IT background, I was working at Accenture. I had zero knowledge about sales and marketing, but I did three short-term projects. One was with GoIbibo, one was with Oyo, and one was with Make My Trip, where I was doing the sales and BD task of making sure that they are identifying the right properties. So that helped me gain the sales skill. I also understand the challenges associated with the sales role. So
Okay.
you have to then figure out if these opportunities are coming your way, you should be leveraging it. And once you graduate from the college and still you feel that you don't have those skill sets, at least within 1 to 2 years of you entering the corporate, try to make a pivot and switch to a role where you will get those skill sets so that you can at least start applying and maybe start giving interviews for the roles that you are targeting in these big tech companies. And also it's never about tech, because I think that is one misconception that everybody has, and both Amazon and Google have both kind of roles. One is tech role, which is for engineering talent, and then there is non-tech side also, where there are program managers, account managers, or maybe product manager kind of role. So
Hmm.
opportunities are immense for everyone. It's just that you need to have relevant skill set in place. Maybe
Live
Richa,
project
you can add.
is a good advice that I'll just note it down. What about you, Richa? Any area advice you?
Yes, I do plus one to what Shashank mentioned. And yes, reality check, tech companies just don't hire for tech roles. There are non-tech roles, and they are in plenty. And when we go on an MBA campus, I'll restrict my answer to only MBA campuses. Where I think almost all our roles are non-tech, maybe barring couple of tech-related roles, right? So um, the whole focus actually should be on how do you how do you brand yourself, or how do you place those unique experiences that you've had in your MBA journey on
Hmm.
the resume. If you're looking for organizations that shortlist through resume, for organizations like Amazon and other where there's no resume shortlisting, I think the best way is to learn about the organization. How do they shortlist? Speak to your alums, speak to your seniors, speak to folks in the organization. I'm sure there are a lot of folks in Amazon and in Google and otherwise who are keen to speak with fresh minds like yourself who are getting into MBA, because there's always a two-way exchange of knowledge that happens in such conversations. So speak to them to understand how do you prep for these interviews. If there's an online assessment happening, how do you prep for such tests? And a lot of our, at least for Amazon, a lot of these questions are available on YouTube, on Google, or on multiple such platforms. It's a cheat sheet that's already been provided, because you're looking at your experiences, you're looking at how do you problem solve, or how do you make decisions, etc. Right? And with reference to focusing on how do you strengthen, or how do you gain the most out of your MBA journey, I think you need to focus on a couple of things. Of course, the first one is learning what is being taught in campus in your course curriculum, at least get your fundamentals right.
Hmm.
Second is learn and be curious, whatever it is. Learn and be curious, because that's a journey, and it shouldn't stop even at an MBA. Even when you join a corporate, your learn and be curious journey shouldn't stop. I would say next one is thought leadership. This is one skill I think almost all organizations are looking forward to. And when they hire from MBA campuses, most organizations are looking for future leaders. When they
Yeah.
come to your campus, they're looking for future leaders. So thought leadership. The other piece would be how do you cultivate softer skills like say adaptability, critical thinking, maybe dealing with ambiguity, and of course the last one is how do you influence without authority,
Yeah.
because even if you're doing program management, operations role, general management, any role for that matter, some of these skills will come in handy when you're working. And most organizations like Amazon, Google have a matrix structure. There's a lot of cross functional work that happens. So you will need this to get your work done and at the
Sure.
same time not burn bridges.
Sure, sure, sure. I have also, if you remember, we started the conversation with the networking, right? Now, let's say we are the upcoming joiners of the MBA. How should I leeway those referrals or those networks of my alums? Because I am also curious, ki how should I approach them? What is the referral and how that works, the system? If you can give us guidance there. in your company?
Mm, From a referral standpoint, I think treating referrals just as another LinkedIn Connect is a
Hmm.
strict no go,
Okay.
um, because they don't land you anywhere. You might just leave a dry LinkedIn drafted note that
Hmm.
will not really get you anything anywhere. A personalized note always is my recommended way to approach. Of course, there are multiple templates on LinkedIn and on AI that will tell you how do you draft such notes. I'll not get into those details. But for
Hmm.
meaningful networking, it cannot just be okay, I sent a friend request or I sent a LinkedIn Connect request and that's it. Or maybe, just a birthday wish happening somewhere sometime in a year. Keep it real, keep it human, keep it conversational. And I think, like I said, these individuals who are connecting with you, or be it senior individuals in the organizations, or even your seniors from campus, what do they get out of this? Is there a conversation happening which leaves them thinking,
Hmm.
or is there something which leaves them happy after that conversation? So there has to be something. It cannot just be a dry relationship of, say, just networking for the sake of networking.
Just transactional. It should not be that transactional. Got it. Shashank, you want to add something?
Yeah, plus one, I think it should not be transactional in nature, because then the other person is not getting anything out of that conversation. So I have seen the relationships, they mature over a period of time. So I'll give you example of two kind of students that generally reach out. So my engineering juniors, they also reach out, and folks from IMT Ghaziabad, they also reach out. And there are
Hmm.
two stark differences in the approach. So they are first kind where when you will go through their LinkedIn messages, it's always about a opening and asking for a referral. And then there
Hmm.
is a second kind where people are also checking on me, talking about the post that I have recently written, or maybe sharing what they are doing in their industry. And after that, generally conversation moves from LinkedIn to WhatsApp. And on WhatsApp, then we get connected, maybe one or two call over some weekend, understanding what they are doing, what I am doing. So those are the people where I am much more confident in giving a referral, because I have also seen some instances of their work, and we have been in touch for 2 to 3 years. And then there is a second lot. Whenever you open LinkedIn, you will see that this is the role, can you refer? And those are 9 or 10 messages. Even though if you refer one or two times, after that you also lose interest, because it's just purely transactional in nature. So very
Hmm.
rightly pointed out by Richa, you need to build those meaningful connections and nurture them also over a period of 2 to 3 years. Then it will be called a network. Just having somebody added to your LinkedIn is not your network. It's basically you having at least 3 4 round of conversation, and they responding to your messages whenever you are texting them or sending them a WhatsApp is the real power of it.
Okay.
True that.
Okay.
Sure. I think I definitely need to work on my networking skills. But I really want to know a bit more about how to crack an interview. Do you have some, guidance to follow XYZ steps to make sure that you crack interviews with Amazon and Google?
I think we'll take a
For
shot at it. So, maybe just take a step back and understand that if you're going into an interview, you have to be prepared for it as well. So I see even brightest of bright candidates going wrong with the fundamental questions, like why you, do you have any question for me, what you're doing currently. So at least make sure that your fundamental questions are right. Second thing is structuring your answer, so you can't be all over the place. There is a simple framework that everybody keeps on talking, which is the STAR: situation, task, action, result. At least make sure that you're sticking to that framework. And third is that if during the interview you're feeling that there is some kind of confusion, go ahead and ask probing questions as well. So I've seen there
Hmm.
are again two type of candidates, because I've taken close to 100 plus interviews here. First is when you ask a question, they will directly jump to the answer and they will start telling everything. And then there are second type of candidates who will take some time, maybe 1 2 minutes. They will ask you probing questions. What exactly are you looking for? And then they will double check, is this something that I should be elaborating on, or this would be sufficient. So it also gives me as an interviewer fair indication that this particular person is having a structure in place. Compared to
Hmm.
some candidates, you ask them a question, they will directly talk for say 10 15 16 minutes. You have to then interrupt and tell them that okay, now this is what I was looking for, let's move to the next set of questions. So always have a structure in place, and there are plenty of frameworks that you should refer to, because once you have got the call, then you are at a equal playing field with all the candidates. It's completely in your hand to make or break that.
But how would you advise a candidate to do well research? So, what are the areas he should be well aware of? What are the structures or methods he should follow while research about Google or Amazon
Yeah,
or
so
any other
see,
thing?
if you're applying for any role, so I'll take an example of, say, there in my team only. Let us take an example. It's a account manager role where we work with, say, all the top startups in India. So we help
Hmm.
them with their acquisition strategy. When you will apply for the role, in the job description, it's very clearly written what kind of candidates we are looking for. So if you're applying for a team that works with a startup, at least have an understanding of how a startup ecosystem is going in India, what kind of funding are flowing in, what kind of startups are picking up, what are some of the challenges they are facing, what these startups are doing in comparison to US. So it's very simple. If you even use any of these LLMs, maybe Gemini, Chat GPT, you just put in the
Hmm.
job description, you will get some 5 or 6 pointers that you can double down on during your preparation. So understanding the job description becomes very important. It's not like that during the interview you're trying to figure out what kind of role is this, what kind of things these team is doing. So you have to do your background research on that.
Hmm. Richa, you want to add something here?
Yeah,
Some tips to get into Amazon.
I'll come to Amazon in a bit, but to add on to in general, how do you prep for interviews? I think what Sashank said is a big plus one. Prep. The two pieces which I want to add to it is be your authentic self. Don't try to be someone who you aren't, because it's easy to see through, and you don't earn any brownie points by doing it. So be yourself. Third, I know on campus also you have workshops, you have opportunities to connect with your seniors, to do a mock interview. So make the most of it. I know my nephews and nieces just reach out saying, Masi, can we do a quick mock when they're getting into an interview or something before their placement season? So I know it
Hmm.
happens, and it really has helped. I'm assuming it'll help everyone. So it just helps you clarify your thought. I wouldn't say that you're prepped for the interview accurately by doing those, but your thought process gets more clarity. You know how to deal with a follow up question, things like those.
You can drive
Um,
interviews
you can
then.
drive interviews, and that's a very good point actually, because if you see an interview going haywire and not in your favor, I think you have an equal power to bring back the interviewer to ask you
Hmm.
questions that you've prepped, maybe dropping in some of those topics in the conversation, and the conversation comes back in certain cases, right? So you absolutely have complete authority, complete control of the interview. Coming back to how you can crack an Amazon interview, I say it's fairly simple. Of course, once you apply, there's no resume screening, etc. Right? So it's an online assessment, and you can't really prep for an online assessment except for it's a work style assessment for
Hmm.
MBA students, and they will ask you very simple behavioral situational questions, maybe one or two functional fitment questions, and that's about it. The whole idea is to be yourself, take that in a safe in a quiet environment somewhere where you can think, and do not rush last minute. I know a lot of students wait until the last day, last hour to take these
Hmm.
assessments. You're not doing any favor to yourself. So plan for your interviews, plan for your assessments. Once that is done, of course, you have enough and more resources available online, enough and more people and alums available who you can chat up on how do you prep for these interviews. And like Shashank mentioned, the STAR technique, it works everywhere, every organization. So
Sure.
look at the leadership principles, there's 16 of them. Think of a situation, task, action, and result for all of these, right? So that, and you can have it written, nobody's stopping you from doing that. Think through, write it down so that you're not thinking on the spot, and then improvise it using what impact did this action have, or what impact did you bring through this leadership principle. That's
Sure.
precisely it. And at times, we also tell individuals that it doesn't really have to be a success story. Failures are equally celebrated at Amazon. So if you took a task and it did not work out, please don't shy away from saying, or maybe building fake stories. Tell us, I tried, I gave it all, but it did not work, and this is my learning. So that's
Sure.
a great way, and I'm sure it works for Google too. It's a fail fast, learn fast culture in most organizations these days.
Hmm. 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 Sure. 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 So coming back to our last leg of our discussion, wherein I want to ask and conclude this with a one fun question. what is your funniest memory or a memorable thing in your MBA which you remember?
I think I remember. So when I joined MBA in the first few weeks, you have these auditions, the selection process for all your clubs and other coveted clubs, basically. I remember participating, and I said I want to sign up for every club because I
Okay,
was under the assumption that my resume needs to stand out. I have to be a part of almost as many clubs as possible.
sure.
Um, while that happened, I was part of the sports club or the corporate relations club or whatever, multiple such clubs. I signed up for everything. But when I look back, my favorite memories were not built inside the classroom. And my favorite memories were maybe hosting a whole HR conference, which gave me an opportunity to connect with HR leaders while I was in my MBA campus, learn from them, or maybe doing a case competition, like Shashank mentioned, he's done so many of them. So
Yeah.
those really help me form bonds, and those friends are some are people who I've still been in touch with
Mm.
versus my entire batch, and they might not even be from my exact same classroom, or my section, right? They would be people I've worked across projects, across case competitions. So yeah, I think that's my favorite memory, wherein I was having fun but still learning so much.
I guess you miss your college days. It seems like you're missing your college days.
I would say yes and no, but
What about you, Shashank?
So I think my favorite memory was during the second year. So I've done my internship at Videocon. So it was a FMCD company, and the placement committee guys, they told me ki if you are from FMCD or FMCG, then you have a strong chances of getting a shortlist at Adidas. So that was my dream company, because I
Okay.
don't know, somebody told me ki that they give you goodies and you can buy, say, all the merchandise, shoes, everything is on the house for people who get into Adidas. So I was expecting a shortlist. So 15th November is my birthday. Morning 8 9 a.m. the shortlist came and I was not selected. So it was like that everything should be going in my direction, or it's not going. By evening, I got to know that I've got a shortlist at Google. And Google was the second option, honestly speaking. First was Adidas, because mesmerized by all what Messi was doing around, how Barcelona was going. So it was kind of dream company for me. But that was the memory that I still cherish. Ki morning mein you got rejected and evening you got selected, and here you are working for 8 9 years with Google. So that is one memory that I had from my MBA.
And that day was your birthday.
Yeah. So actually,
Birthday
yeah. So
surprise.
last night we were celebrating the birthday, morning this rejection, and evening then the shortlist came for Google.
on
Nice, nice.
on that, and Shashank, you mentioned, I think we all dreaded the placement season. Ki kya hoga? There's so much anxiety and nervous
Right.
energy around. But I think the favorite memories are built around that time, wherein you just get that placement offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So even like when I got shortlist for Google, I had zero knowledge about how digital marketing work, and you know how these placement committees work at MBA college. You get a shortlist within 6 7 hours, the process will start. So for next 6 7 hours, I was just sitting understanding what is definition of a click, what is definition of an impression, and then getting myself ready for that whole interview process. And as rightly told by Richa, so most memorable moments are when you see yourself getting placed, your friends getting placed, and then whole group celebrating together. So I think that is one of the biggest memories that anyone can have in MBA days.
I think both of you made us curious as well as nervous for our MBA journey. But I'm so thankful that we get to interact directly with the recruiters of the dream brands.
Thank you so much for the discussion, Shashank and Richa. It was a
Thank you
great
so much for
advice and piece of advice that you are taking forward.
Thank you so much. It was super fun interacting, and you absolutely took us back to our college days.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, Shashank and Richa.
Thank you,
thank
and
you,
all the
Richa, for
best.
participating. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Shashank. See you. Bye bye.
That was a gold mine of insight. Thank you to our panel for those actionable takeaways. Now, let's move into a space that's buzzing with innovation and disruption. Whether it's a unicorn startup or a tech first giant, the game has changed. What skills are they scouting for? How do you adapt your mindset for high growth environments? This conversation is all about bridging that gap. To take it forward, I would like to welcome on stage Chanchal D, Senior Director TA from Microland, Bandana Singh, Director, Functions and CTO Hiring from Wipro, and Sumit Kumar, HR Business Partner from Mitra, along with Neil and Ishita. Over to you, folks.
We welcome you all, the dear panelists. But before we dive deep up into the MBA buzz and big career moves, right? Let's get to know about yourself first.
I agree. Let's stop the more serious questions for now. I'm more interested towards the quirky, the fun side of our panel.
So the rules are very simple. We'll start off with a rapid fire round. I'll ask you some of the questions, some terms, and I'll judge you and test you basis whether you know it or not.
And there is no right or wrong answer, just quick thinking and some fun laughs around the world.
So, panelist, how well do you know Gen Z is around? So, what I'll do is I'll ask you one question about a term, and I'll test whether you know its meaning or not. So, the first term is salty. Any guesses what it means?
I think I work with the Gen Zs. My entire team is of Gen Z, so of course I'm sure that I'm going to ace it. Initially, the first time I remember when I heard about this term, I pardon me, I thought that it has something to do with chips. Apparently not, but I know now that it means being jealous.
Oh, nice, nice, nice.
Well, spot on. You are absolutely correct. So, our next question is cancel culture.
Disapproving of someone.
So it's yes, basically it's shaming the actions and opinions of a public figure, company, or an organization. But
Yeah.
bang on, Sumit, bang on. So next up is glow up. If you know about it.
Happy. I'm assuming glowing should be happy, unless there is some really wild meaning behind it, as usual.
I'll give you a quick hint. Say, Neil, you had such a glow up.
Oh God, I I am a
Can
mother
I
to a Gen
just
Z, but seriously cannot do this.
No, no, Chanchal, you're very, very close. I think it means, a sort of a positive transformation in a person. I think that's what it means.
Wow,
Yes, yes, a positive
wow,
change or something in physical appearance when you see positivity. That's it.
interesting.
Okay, so the last one is not a Gen Z term, but the kind of conversation me and Neil often do about corporate life. I'm curious to know this. So complete the sentence. Corporate life is like.
Oh, very
Roller coaster,
interesting.
roller coaster. Everybody has a different expression altogether. It is a lovely picture to see that entire roller coaster.
Okay, you can define more. So let's not restrict it to one word. What it means in roller coaster. What do you
See,
mean?
I mean, when you say roller coaster, of course, at an individual level, it is a great fun. When you start, there is sort of like tingling in the stomach. When you start your career, sort of a thing. As you go up, 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 there is excitement in certain people. There is fear in certain people. You're surrounded with strangers, and all of y'all are in the same situation. So it's like being on a roller coaster.
Sumit,
So
what about
yeah.
you?
Corporate life is well, it's fun when you are in it together. Otherwise, it's pretty lonely. I think right from the beginning, we all have an image of what it would look like. Of course, some people are able to sort of take it very well and respond to it very well. But I think at the end of the day, if I look back at my career, I think I would say that all the times when I've liked working with the people and liked being with the people that I'm around with, it's always been fun, and it's got the best out of me. So I think it's always fun when you have good people around, when you're able to sort of make those relationships around. I think that's how it is for me.
Nice, nice, nice.
Okay.
So as we are about to join colleges and then move to the corporate, I have one question. In the colleges that I've heard, there are so many projects, live case studies. So is this really important and to be prepared in the corporate world?
I think
I
it is
think
to
it
make
is.
corporate ready.
It is actually very important. See, because in it's like going out in the world and being in your home. When you are at home, it is a very controlled environment where conditioning drives behavior, etc. But when you move out into the world, that conditioning may or may not work. It, of course, your values drive you, but there are situations, and you need to be prepared to be dealing with those situations. And if you've not been in those kind of situations or exposed to things beyond a certain set environment, it will become very challenging for that individual to really be in a differential environment. So I think more you expose yourself to opportunities, more readiness you will have when you have to really face the on-job situations, because not every time or all organizations will be able to give you that kind of exposure and training. Today we are in a very, very fast environment. We are supposed to go 0 to 100 really, really quickly. So we no longer get that sort of environment where you will be nurtured, given time, etc. We don't work in those, we are not living in those environments anymore. So I think it's very important to do internships, very important to do live projects. It's very important to interact with the world that you're about to enter in the next 2 years, so that you understand it pre-hand, rather than waiting to live it when it comes, sort of a thing.
Banna, you want to add on here?
I totally align with what Chanchal mentioned, and the way I look at it, it's like your career sandbox, right? Like low risk environment wherein you experiment, fail fast, and learn even faster. So it's that setup which is where you understand how strategy meets execution. You understand how collaboration works in a real environment, and while I at one side, it definitely does build your resume, but what it truly does, it builds your mindset to be future ready.
But so you are checking so many resumes when it comes to interviews, right? So all these pointers, these checks, how it makes an impact, because there are 100 of them and all of them have done something or the other. What are the things that stands apart as a candidate when you see all those things?
Absolutely, and Neil, to answer your question, it's a great conversation starter, right? But then this is not an end game. What truly matters, and of course, like as students, as you get into or the students kind of get into their MBA course curriculum for 2 years, there are multiple opportunities, right? Kind of some people do live projects, some people do internships, and of course many more things, right? And of course, there's a combination of it as well. Now, these could be a great conversation starters, but what truly matters is going back to the point, is your mindset. When we review resume, when we talk to people, we really look for the learning agility. We look for what you're passionate about. Did you really do something around it, right? So say for example, today you could say that, hey, you know what, like generative AI is a term that I'm extremely passionate about, and I love that space, and I want to build my career and future in that space. But as an individual, during your 2 years journey, what did you do to ensure that you are ready to take on that opportunity? Did you go get yourself trained? Did you do cloud certifications? There are a bunch of certifications available. You have guest lectures, you have leaders, you can talk to faculty, you can talk to you can talk to your alums who are working in different organization and kind of real time exposed to these things. So I think what we look for is, what did you do to follow through your passion and ambition?
Sure.
That truly matters.
Sumit, do you want to add something to it?
See, I think, I again look back from my career days, how I started off, and, we all have these thoughts as, what goes into the minds of a recruiter? Why is the person getting shortlisted and I'm not getting shortlisted? I think, and to your point, Neil, again, adding to, is it even important, do these in campuses, should you even get to stand for a secretary of any position? Should you even try and work? See, what happens is, when you're a fresher or when you are someone who's fresh out of a campus, most of the companies today have evolved into an evidence-based hiring, which is a competency-based hiring. You want to test for certain skills, you want to test for certain characters or behaviors that map what you are trying to work on as an organization. I think these experiences give you an opportunity, because you are untested. Till you don't do anything, you are actually untested. You don't know how to sort of work or display what is an ownership. You don't know how to display ownership. You don't know how to collaborate. You might have done it. You might have done it in your ways of working as a student, you by without realizing it. But these give you talking points as to how do you showcase it. So that's why I think it's very important to realize that it might seem trivial. कि यार नहीं करेंगे. I mean, how does it matter? Someone else. I mean, everybody else does it, or I'll probably stand out differently in that sense. But as it was pointed out that these bring out those talking points, conversation starters as to the interview that can dive deep, and your resume can only take you X far, right? After that, it is these conversations as to how you build on that and how do you showcase your ability. Ultimately, everybody's taking a punt on you. I think these instances provide more of a reason to take a punt on you as a fresher, I think.
Okay, so what if I am a fresher, I am new to the market, and everything is probably new to me? So how can I actually add value as a fresher in corporate?
See, the reason why we bring fresher from first standpoint is the energy and newness that you bring to the table. So I think while no one wants you to revolutionize anything on day one, but I think bringing in perspective, which as an organization, see, organization is also living in a box. We all somewhere live under a rock. It's just that it's a different size of rock everywhere, or a different kind. So I think bringing in your perspective, bringing in that energy, bringing in newness to the entire environment is one thing. Second thing is that, see, today a most important aspect is building talent. Why is campus such an important thing? Because while we can buy talent always, but building talent means I am creating something which is very specific to my org need. It can be the culture fabric, it can be the sort of the job family or the role that I'm building on to, etc., etc. So I am basically bringing in a fresher with a certain sort of behavioral indications, like Sumit mentioned, that there is a certain behavioral indicators that we look for in an individual. We bring in and we build that talent. So how are we able to build that talent is something what freshers really add to it. So there is no rocket science. I mean, there is no reason to overthink this thing, that why I need to do something differential because I've been given an opportunity. It's a dual situation. We are giving you an opportunity, but we are also gaining an opportunity to create talent, create a leader from within. So it is a win-win, and I think it's very important to understand that what is it that the organization wants from you, from their perspective. You're already there, they've hired you, that means there is something in you, right, which is matching to what they would like to do and build upon. So I think that is what is the most important thing. Overthinking is not required, really.
Okay, so on the note of creating talent, do freshers actually are provided with a platform to explore and learn, or the space to experiment?
within your companies maybe, or if you want to add generically.
Um, Absolutely, yes. There's no two ways about it. And the question really made me think about somebody that I've hired. I had hired a couple of years ago. Her name is Brycey. In fresh college pass out from the campus team, and week one of, obviously, with so many corporate jargons and everything, she looked a little bit overwhelmed. But as we started to kind of work together, what stood out about her was she never pretended to know anything. She and thereby she asked relevant, thoughtful questions that truly helped the team uncover some of the blind spots that we were not seeing, because being in the same domain and field, that things that we were doing. And referring back to what Chanchal mentioned, that you are just completely unclouded by your past judgment and habit, because you do not have a past perspective. You don't have a preconceived notion of this is what corporate life would look like, or this is how I'm supposed to behave, or the whole hierarchical culture. Sometimes people may get a little bit overwhelmed by that. And what really it does when you hire somebody fresh, which is absolutely not untouched by all of this, you tend to gain a lot more. So as organizations, we truly are always scouting for the right talent, the talent that can bring in fresh perspective, the talent that questions status quo, and kind of grows and helps us grow as an organization. So absolutely a huge supporter of building talent.
Okay.
So you want to add something, Chanchal? You want to add something here?
So, see, basically, it again, I would go back, on the point that what are you saying when you say that is there not a learning platform provided? There is a platform that is provided. Anything that you do as a fresher is going to be a learning because you have basically you've not done that before, right? So
Hmm.
every hour for you in that environment is learning. It is only about how you are looking at it from your perspective. Are you looking at it as an environment where where you're learning, or are you taking it as an environment which is burdening you? That is a perspective that you come up with. So everything that you do as a fresher in an organization is a learning, basically. So I think that is the most important mindset that you need to enter the corporate life with.
Sure. So my understanding is, let's say I am very much intrigued to be a part of marketing role, right? It fascinates me a lot. Now I'm a fresher and I don't have that experiences. So let's say there any training programs or internships in your that particular, because it's again a 2 month or a 3 month program. How can I explore myself within what I want to learn? So how do you cater to such kind of students who wants to learn in niche profile?
Are you talking about from internship perspective or from full time?
Internships or
Because
any
you
job trainings that you might have, so how you deal with that?
I
see
think
from
one thing
internship
probably,
perspective.
sorry, Chanchal, go on, and then
No,
I'll add on.
no. So basically, from internship, so these are two different things altogether. So from internship perspective, of course, if you're interested in marketing, I would urge the individual to look for a role within marketing itself. See, because as a management student, you basically have only 8 weeks.
Hmm.
If you are looking at something very specific, then the recommendation would be to look for organizations that are giving you that targeted opportunity, because the time period is only 8 weeks that you can spend in an internship sort of a model, or a sort of an environment. Now, if you're looking at a full-time sort of a role, again, of course, the first preference would be, if you're looking for marketing, please apply for marketing roles. But the second piece would be to look at it from a more org perspective. What is the organization that you would like to work on? Whether, today, would you like to experience a startup, whether you would like to experience a large, because they all are different flavors altogether. And of course, all organizations, including Microland, we have mobility as and we encourage mobility. And folks can move across functions, across functions. Actually, Microland's chief people officer was the delivery head. He's not a professional HR professional who studied HR. He's an engineer who spent 18 years in Microland, joined as joined early in his career and was heading delivery. But today is the chief people officer since the last 5 years. So there are many such stories within the organization that I represent. But that is something that definitely all organizations provide. But as a student, my recommendation would be, if there is a very specific requirement, please chase that specific requirement. But again, as a recruiter, my recommendation to all students is, keep yourself open, because you may think that you're good at marketing, but for all you know, you might be good at other things as well. Expose yourself, because you have your early career to really experiment and do multiple things before you say that, okay, fine, I have to settle on to this one thing. So I think it is an individual choice, and that is somewhere that person can only make it who is looking at it. But these are few thoughts that I would definitely, if someone comes to me, I'll definitely put these on the table for them.
Okay, Banna, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, so I think Neil, what I was also kind of delving into the whole perspective of, hey, I am passionate about marketing. In this scenario, say for example, you're passionate about marketing, and as an organization, Do I really look for your skill in marketing? Not necessarily as a recruiter or as an organization when I come and recruit you. But what I absolutely expect, going back to my previous conversation about how are you keeping yourself future ready, I would expect the students to show interest. And for an example, there's a college fest. You can take on a social media program for that college fest. Simple, do simple things, but show interest that you are interested in that field, and you are extremely intentional about it. And that's something which is very important for me as a recruiter when I talk to a student, and when I kind of look for the student for a particular role. There are certifications, there are competitions, right? Simple things, knowing industry trends, what's happening in the digital agency or digital world, knowing some of those things, keeping the stats with you, following trends, it would help us understand that you are intentional about it, you are interested in it, and thereby you have the potential to pick up this because you have followed through your passion, throughout your kind of 2-year MBA journey. That gives me the confidence that you have what it takes to do that role. So be intentional about it, follow through with every single opportunity you can dabble on, be it in college or industry competitions, etc., and make your way through.
Sumit, any thoughts
I
taken in your Mintra as an organization? Or
See, I think we are, Mintra as an organization, we are very bullish on people, as in to take bets on people specifically. And I think, I'll draw parallels to two things. Ki if there is a seed, it needs to grow into a plant. You need to nurture it. You need to sort of water it. You need to give it the right environment. You need to give it the right experience for it to sort of nurture into a plant, right? So it is similar, I think, across any organization. Every organization will hire fresher because that's how you start. Anybody starts as a fresher. There is no other option. You have to start as a fresher. But the organizations which nurture well, which provide those ingredients well, I think are the ones which turn out with success stories of them having their entry folks growing into a CEO or growing into a business head, any of those in that sense, right? And that's why even from Intra perspective, while we hire interns specifically for a role, but what we let them keep in mind is be fungible, be aware that it's okay to sort of learn new skills, learn new things, and create your own future paths and career progression in that sense. And this gives us a great way to sort of to help an individual learn various different aspects and then decide for themselves as to what is it that they want to do. Only if you get fungible across teams and roles do you actually are able to sort of do that. And that's why any organization which does these things in basics right, I think that sort of helps achieve its overall goals of how it does. And I think that's how we also treat people with fresher hires at Myntra, in terms of giving them the right experiences, letting them learn as much as possible in the initial days, and knowing that they are fungible across folks, and letting them believe that they can do anything or they can excel anywhere as long as your intrinsics are right, your basics are right, you can excel anywhere. So yeah.
Okay, so to just contrary to what Neil asked, what if I'm someone who wants to keep her options open? I'm also inclined towards digital transformation, but I'm also interested in consulting. So, is there something particular that I can highlight in my resume or interview to actually get shortlisted?
I think Bandana has made it clear that you've got to be intentional. You have to follow through. It has to be seen in your profile. If you're chasing marketing, then we need to see enough certifications and your inclination towards it. So I think it's very important. As a fresher, there's not much for us to really go for. There are only two things. One, I'll see on your CV what is the kind of academics that you have, what is the kind of projects that you've done, if you've done things like certifications, etc., and what sort of internships you have done, etc. So this is all that I will see. Second thing is, when I interact with you, I will get to understand what is the kind of value system, attitude, skills, behavioral aspects that you have, and is that matching to the culture fabric of the organization. Second thing, again, I will say, while you should be open, or you have to be targeted, whatever is your approach. Clarity that you bring to the table, that this is what I would want, is very important for the organization, because we need to understand that not all organizations would really be able to give you that immediately. Now, as an individual, I would want to do both. I would want to do targeted, but an organization believes that I have an empty program and there has to be fungibility that has to be running. So you will have to touch multiple aspects, but you may not like, it's like, again, it's like being in school sort of thing. You may not like maths or you may not like history, but we got to study it, because that is the school environment. So every organization may be very different in your perspective. Hence, like I said, I will go back and say that as a pressure, keep an open mind while you are targeted. Like Bandana said, continue your target of being intentional, continue the certification, but keep yourself open, because today fungibility is a very, very important thing. Jack of all trades is and master of none is very, very important in hybrid multitasking world that we live in. Whether it is, a digital organization or a manufacturing organization today, they both operate in a much higher speed than what they were doing 5 to 10 years back from their perspective. So fungibility is something that I look at, and specifically if we talk about management students, what is it that a general management student bring to the table? That person brings in the most important aspect, that there is a potential for me to create a generalist, because at a leadership level, there is a requirement for generalists. If everybody starts becoming specialists, then that's also going to become a little bit of a challenge. Over the period of time, you will realize whether you really want to be a generalist or a specialist. But be intentional, be clear, be open. Most important thing is be open. Today we think too much and we narrow ourselves a bit too much. We are lucky that we are living in a world where there are so many certifications that are available. So you can do one thing as well as enjoy another thing. You can be at a job and you can be an influencer as well if you like to talk. So, we live in that world today. So we should be able to enjoy both of it, as well as keep our options open, so that we are basically becoming a better individual as well as an employee to an organization. That is what I would really sum it up to.
But when we speak of,
we've got very aspirational students on the call who are, curious about marketing, fascinated by the whole digital transformation, and intrigued by consulting. Extremely aspirational set of students, Isha, I must tell you.
so I have this understanding. I'm very much clear about some skill sets which are very much required. But so everybody has the same sort of skill sets, the traditional ones. But what you think that is encouraged are the new technology terms that we should learn. If you can tell about that, it would be great for us. Some new technology trends, as well as it has to be cultural fit also. So what do you think in a candidate?
Sure. I think, Neil, we are not really looking at tech gurus or tech ninjas. Honestly, I mean, going back to the fundamentals of what Sumit and Chanchal have been talking about, that learning agility will continue to be one of the strongest skill set that that one would carry, which is learning, and unlearning is going to be equally important, right? So I think one bit of learning agility that will continue on. Of course, in the industry, if you look at it, of course, there's cloud and there's generative AI, and the future workforce, the way I see it, it is going to be developing this or would be a user of it, which means that you have to understand these trends well. You have to kind of get onto the journey to sort of understand what's really happening in this space, because there's nothing beyond this. I mean, of course, like either you're developing all of this or you are using it, and you better be good at it. So some of these trends will follow and will continue to evolve. That's not going to stop. But at the center of it, at the core of it, what would stay is one, your learning agility, your curiosity. how quickly you are willing to learn and grow along with the organization. Are you adapting, this whole massive change that we get to see? And it's not really every decade now we get to see this change. It's kind of every year the trend changes. So are you adapting well to that? Are you collaborating with people? Because most of the organizations today, they struggle with collaboration. The whole cross team, cross cultural collaboration is going to be a key there. How do you work with people? And of course, the other thing is cultural humility, especially like, if your opinion doesn't align with, or somebody else's opinion doesn't align with yours, how do you still work together as one single team? So I think some of these things will be fundamentals of your success. The trends will come, the markets will evolve, technologies will change, all of this will happen, but once you have the right, you will go on.
Sumit, what trends or new technologies that you encourage? If
See,
you can say.
again, I am a firm believer that you can't just have. I can't tell you one technology that if you use or know you will get cleared. I mean, world is so agile today. You're using Chat GPT to get your answers. I mean, you didn't use it 2 years back, right? I mean, you didn't know something of this sort is going to come, wherein life is going to be so simple. So what is more important is to be smart, to be aware, and to know how to use all the resources that you have to get the best out of the situation. I think and that too, unless you're doing a very specific coding kind of a job where or a very specific working on a robotic automation, that you have to use x software only, but that's not the kind of people or the work that we're talking about. We're talking about generalists over here. We're talking of folks who can work in organizations who still are trying to figure out what they want to do. So in that situation, all I'm trying to tell is, as long as you have your basics right, you have the drive, you have that ownership, you have that hunger, you want to learn, you want to work together, you're okay to accept mistakes. I think that's one of the most important things that I also realize, that if people, I mean, it's very normal to do mistakes. It's very normal to do mistakes. But as long as you're open to accepting mistakes, learn from it, and then get yourself better. I think these are the few intrinsics rather than tech trends or tech themes that I would sort of want to just touch upon.
Okay, so continuing, I just for my clarity, I believe you can identify all of these traits in an interview. But if you're talking from a resume point of view, are there something specific that we are looking to bag a chance in company like yours?
So maybe clearing the first step, basically.
See, I think from resume standpoint, like I said, all of us, it's actually the most difficult thing as a recruiter to screen a fresher resume because it does not say anything. But what is indicative is what is the kind of internships that you have done, what is the kind of educational background that you come from, what is the what are the kind of the number of projects that you have done. See, that also is indicative of how much you are open to experiment, how open you are or interested you are in a certain sort of a direction, and maybe that direction aligns with the direction that I have within my organization. So these few things are important. So yes, doing live projects, doing projects, being a part of certain clubs in your school, etc., does give an indication of a personality also. Because I can be a person who would gel well in a culture of running around, hustling around, or in an environment of change, etc. So it is a very difficult task for a recruiter, at least in my personal experience, to shortlist a profile, and it is painful to not shortlist another profile, because for all we might be letting go somebody very good just because that person has done one less life project, or it is painful. But these are few important indicators that any individual would be looking at. Today we don't look at academic marks, etc. But we are also talking about are you an engineer, are you not an engineer, etc., etc. Though in my experience, we have sometimes hired people in technology who came from a very differential background altogether, but they've been doing really well. So it is sort of a lack of better word, a game of chance. that we are also playing. But when we look at it, the checklist would have these few things at least mentioned on it, and of course the number of open positions and how many people we have bandwidth to meet. So
I've
that's
also
where it is.
heard that most of the companies are having a strong hold on their value driven mindset, right? How should, as a student, I build that? Are there any activities that might help me within my college to build that value driven mindset? If you can help me out.
See,
Neelam,
the value. Sorry.
yeah. No,
Vanna,
I
are
was
you talking
thinking.
because your free frozen for me, so I don't know. Please, please go ahead.
No,
Yes.
I was just saying in Wipro context, of course, Wipro as an organization is known to be an organization that is extremely ethics and value driven organization, right? But here's the thing that the value driven mindset isn't about memorizing like, oh, this is what a mission statement is, or this is what we do. It's it's more about how you show up, how you speak to people, or how you treat people. What are the choices that you are making when you do not have somebody sitting on your head and constantly watching or validating, right? What is it that you do? And Neil, you brought about the right point that corporate is not really a kind of corporate does not really give you the platform to start to build this happens much earlier. And as you were saying that in the college space, how can you start to do that? You can look at developing integrity, accountability, empathy, start from the beginning. And especially like if you talk about in the college, what are some of those things that you can look for? Is probably the indicators could be that you are doing more often than not, students are doing group projects. Are you taking ownership? Are you dependable? Or in the Gen Z terms, do you really ghost when the situations get tough? Right, when you are you giving credit to your team members when it's due, right? Are you openly talking about it that, hey, probably the person wasn't part of my project, etc., but the person still helped? And of course, are you curious about people's perspective? Are you respectful of their views, even if it's aligned with yours or not? So these are the small moments that sort of help you build that mindset. And again, like corporate, it's more like you are supposed to do certain things a certain way, so you end up doing it, but the foundation starts much earlier than that. You just don't have to be perfect. I think we learn the ropes along the way as it when we move forward. But if we start to really watch some of those trends and our kind of behavioral patterns, I think the first step would be is to kind of be aware that who we are, and start to kind of build from there. So college, your college and these small projects, they kind of give you a fantastic platform to, as much as to kind of learn and deliver, but also look internal and kind of be a better version of yourself.
Can friends and peers around me who I'm living with can influence and impact my values?
Absolutely. I was actually about to just add that we must not forget that we live in India, and values system is something that we're basically grown up with. So change, ability to adapt, this is something that we do on a daily on a daily life, being humble, being nice. We live fortunately in a country where we can hire help. So uh, compassion is something that we grew up with. Now, whether we are practicing that compassion or no is completely upon us. We've grown up in possibly sort of a larger environment, not as large as maybe millennials when we talk about family size, because we're mostly smaller families now. But still, if I talk about Gen Z, not so much nuclear. Now maybe it's become more nuclear. So we've grown up in an environment where we have lived in teams. We have operated in teams because we live with siblings. We have gone to schools and being participated in sports. We have displayed these values. So value system of any corporate is not different from the value system of our surroundings, because it comes from the surrounding. It's just that every organization has a culture fabric and it may differ from that standpoint. But if you go to any organization, we talk about customers, we talk about integrity. These are very common. It's not like an IP held by Microland or Myntra or by Wipro or any other organization. So these are something that is there everywhere, and this is something that you've grown up with. Our surroundings are very, 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 very important, and we've grown up in these surroundings. So we already have a built-in value system. That's the reason why we stick to certain organizations and we are not able to stick to certain organization. It's not that organization, it is the value clash that happens or the culture clash that happens. So it's not that if I don't have a certain value, I cannot ever work. It's just that I cannot possibly flourish in a certain environment. So you already have a value system. I think more than that, the mindset of being open and being able to change constantly is something that an individual today needs to be very, very open to. Sumit has also mentioned ownership, agility, adaptability is very, very important. So that is what we need to really focus on.
Okay, so reducing the funnel, what are some of the matrices that you look for in an MBA student when you go there for placement process? So is there anything particular you're looking for in MBA students because they are generally hired in a managerial position?
You're talking about from perspective of competency?
From perspective of mindset, competency, skill sets, maybe.
And let's say there are maybe in terms of competency or skill sets, there are tech side also, there are softer side also. So what weightage you would give more? That's my understanding.
I think for a fresher, the important aspect is are the behavioral traits, because from hard skill standpoint, we will be building that into you. So can we build it or can we not build it? Learning agility, ability to think on the feet, ability to broaden your thought process. How are you articulating, presenting yourself? These are actually for fresher hard skills. Because that's the only piece that we will be able to evaluate you on. Rest everything we will provide. That's our side of the bargain as an organization. But can we really invest, or if we are bringing you in, would you be able to absorb what we are trying to build out of you and become that person? Is what we will gauge from all the competencies, or rather the softer behavioral traits that you display during the discussions.
Okay. Do you want to add something, Sumit?
The only thing that I would add to this is, if we were only looking for technical skills, we probably would go to the market and look for a lateral hire. There is a reason that organizations go to campuses and look for people with a mindset, with learning agility, questioning the status quo, not coming with this whole preconceived notion of how something is to be done. So it's a combination, of course, and even when I talk about that, you are interested in a particular aspect, just go get yourself trained, find opportunities. But what it shows me as a recruiter is really that how you follow through your passion, how you follow through something that you want to learn, and what efforts you made towards it. Essentially, at the end of the day, what I'm really assessing is the same thing that Chanchal talked about, which is the behavioral aspect of you, your learning agility, your adaptability, your ability to follow through. So yes, it's more of the softer skills. The hard skills are teachable. Every organization has a robust inbuilt program to coach you the standard skill sets that we are looking for. So that's the only additional point that I would like to add.
Okay, and what happens after I have joined a particular company? So technologies are ever evolving, it's gonna keep evolving. So do we have some upskilling programs or training programs for the employees to keep them updated with the market?
Absolutely. I think if I have to talk from Microland's perspective, we have an entire learning agenda and a program for all the employees where they can upskill, and they also get awarded for being upskills. So from perspective of growth, so we do encourage everybody, whether they're freshers or they are lateral hires from the market, to upskill them so that we can promote them, move them internally, they can grow cross-functional. And there is an entire career architecture framework from each job role perspective, which is transparently available to all the employees so that they know horizontally, vertically how they can move, and how what are the developmental areas that they would have to work upon, and what are the available learning streams for it. So there is an entire program for development for all the employees within the organization. So definitely every employee who joins us will be able to utilize and build their own career. So largely it is building your career on your own. So it's a typical 70-30 approach. 70% you do, 30% as an employer I will enable. So that is what we largely operate as.
What happens in
What about
yeah.
Sorry.
Wipro's learning module is immersive, Neil, I must tell you. So we have a learning platform, which is of course virtual and in person both. And it provides you an opportunity to learn anything which is from your hard coded tech skills to the software aspect of it, right? So be it AI, analytics, cloud certifications, design thinking, agile methodology, to everything, we have it in-house available. We also provide, like, we partner with a lot of organizations. So we have partnership firms, which is where we do a lot of certifications. We have domain specific programs. It's not just the technical skills, but also the domain aspect of it, like the function aspect of it as well. We get people trained on. So say, for example, when we hire somebody BFSI, or say, for example, when we hire somebody for consulting, we have boot camps. If I talk about the CA side of the world, we have like a 2-year cohort program, which is where they learn and develop, their skills to be ready to take on any work, which is, or any aspect of the business, be it PFM or be it controllership or be it audit or tax or anything for that matter, right? So we have invested, over the years, we have invested so much in the platform, and we have absolutely mastered the art of it. So I think it's exciting. We also have leadership programs, not just for the students, but even the tenured managers and leaders. We run leadership programs as well, with industry leaders, with industry mentors and coaches. So it works brilliantly. And I think this is one of the things that you will find a lot of old timers being in Wipro. And today I was in a conversation with a leader who kind of spent 2 decades, nearly 2 decades in the organization, and I talked about it, that what really kept you going. And of course, but natural question, 20 long years in the same campus. She's always been in Bangalore, and that's what essentially she referred to. That what you look for is an opportunity to learn and grow, do different things, and at the same time do things differently. And she has had the opportunity to do that. We have found out the perfect mechanism to do role rotations, and it's encouraged to kind of change your roles, every 2 years or every 3 years, and learn. So the entire fundamental of the organization, it functions on people learning and growing along with the organization.
I'm curious to know what happens in Mantra.
Exactly.
See, I think here it's slightly the cooler version of learning. I think over here, it's called Minverse. Actually, our learning universe is called Minverse. So just calling it out. But anyway, the intrinsics again remain the same. As a person comes in, there is a boot camp. Every fresher that comes in, there is a curated training profile of dedicated training that happens for all the folks, and it's a robust one, so that they get an insight into everything. And once they come in, then you do on the job. So I think realistically, you also need to understand that learning also happens on the job. I mean, and there are specific training programs that are sort of done, but it's mostly an 80-20 kind of a sequence, where 80% of your learning will happen on the job. But having said that, we have our curated Because when you come in as a fresher, there are very specific, skills of say an Excel, of a data, imagining how data works, and how you interpret things using numbers. So all of those basic skills for which curated programs anyway happen. And as you grow, there are specific cohorts of people. As you build and you become a manager, there are specific focused trainings for managers that happen, which are very focused and specific. And each business also might have a specific skill or specific kind of a training that is needed. While all doing all of this, each of the individuals can do what they want to do on their own through the platform that I just called out, right? So that is for their curate through their specific, on that is my learning journey as to what is it that they want to do. And the folks who actually do the maximum learning hours are actually rewarded in all that sense. So hence that culture of learning needs to keeps coming in as an organization and as a repeat mode in that sense, right? And yeah, that's how you do it. While another way, as I said, the reality is you can't back on external programs only to sort of help you learn. You will have to be self aware, and know that this is the area that I am not very good at, which is where it sort of reflects back to your performance process, that with the feedback that you've got, the 360 feedback that you've got, that these are the areas where I think I should be improving. And you need to work on that, and you create your own individual development programs for that, wherein plans for that, wherein you define what is it that you want to do over the next 1 year, which means creating specific models of ABC that I need to do to sort of achieve my overall goal. So generally freshers might not have that much of a clarity, but the whole help is provided in that ecosystem to do that, right? So typically this would happen at a Myntra when you come in.
Sure. But we have always talked about hustle culture in the companies. So, but let's say an employee is very much willing to work and at par work basically, but still he needs breaks too. So, how burnouts are handled in your company?
Okay, I'll come in here. I think probably to sort of be a representation of
All
that.
your sword.
No, not in a negative way. I think it all starts from empathy. I mean, I'll go back to Bandana telling that when you empathize, when you become leaders, when you become managers, the first realization is that you have a team, and everybody of us as humans, we have the same, again, we have the same requirements, that give us a bit of good work, give us work that is challenging, give us work that will help us stretch a little. Don't make it toxic, right? So that is what defines the line between these two. And that Myntra, I think that compassion, that empathy, when that comes in, when, and as a culture, when you breed that, when you propagate that culture of compassion and empathy, it's sort of I mean I won't say everything is, I mean, nobody is expected to sort of do anything in that sense, but when it comes to organizations working towards a goal that is very superior, all the team needs to come together, needs to show compassion, needs to work, and that's why when you work as a team, a lot of your inefficiencies sort of anyway get taken care of, because you're working towards a common goal. And at the end of the day, you realize that once you achieve that goal, it's all fine. I mean, so that's why everybody needs to know that what is that hours of work, or what is it that kind of work, what is that flexibility that is needed, whether it is work from home, whether it is give me an off on any day when I need, let me go home at a 6 o'clock or a 5 o'clock because I have my child's birthday. It's all a mix of that. When you are able to sort of do that, when you're able to sort of work that out as a manager, I think it all falls in place. Yeah, I mean, this it's sometimes is real when managers are not able to manage it. At the end of the day, it is about the managers managing their teams well. I think that's how it sort of, I believe it narrows down. If a manager is capable enough of doing it, it sort of comes down well.
Yeah, and I think just to add, I don't think that being in the office 16 hours a day is a badge of honor anymore. It's not. It's not something that you will get appreciated for, saying, "Oh, hey, I see you in the office all the time." We have just moved past that whole burnout culture, honestly, Neil and Isha. Fundamentally, if I really look at it, some of the things, one, it also goes back to how you schedule and do a time management of your own calendars. Um, I come across people very often, and it's not unheard of or unseen of or once in a while. I come across people who spend the whole day chit chatting and kind of spending time, at the bakery and tea shop, etc. And nothing for or against it. Of course, relationship building, a lot of this happens. The whole water cooler conversations, etc. Great fan of that. But ultimately, you have to look at your priority, and you have to time it. You have to time your own schedule well. That's one thing that everybody should keep that in mind. And again, going back to like a well-being conversation, I think the construct of well-being, the construct of burnout, or my space is very different for different people. For me personally, if I have the ability to follow or to do what I absolutely enjoy doing, I am good. I really don't mind anything else, so long I am able to follow through my passion and do it. That just keeps me, that's my safe space. That sort of keeps me sane. And similarly, the whole construct is different for different people. So two parts to it: one, manage your time well. That's one. And second, find what is a work life balance for you personally. What works for you? It's important to know.
Sure.
Okay, I think you guys have answered almost all the questions that we had. It was wonderful interacting with all three of you, and thank you so much. We got the opportunity to directly ask questions to the recruiters, and it was great having a conversation.
But last one thing is remaining. What what would be the unique advice you want us to leave with? So as a pre-MBA joiner, what would you tell us and advise us?
Enjoy and be focused. That's it. I do not overthink. This is not some sort of war that you guys are entering into. Enjoy. Like Vandana said, I think the most important thing is to know what you like to do, and just do that. And after 2 years, yes, there will be a job, but these 2 years are fantastic. You are not going to be in college again. So remember that, enjoy, stay focused. I think everything is going to fall in place.
Vandana and Sumit.
I think for me, if I have to tell the students one thing, it will be your authentic self. Just be you. It's important to be your authentic self in everything that you choose to do. Corporate, any organization, personal life. If you want to open your venture, everything that you want to do in life, even in your personal lives, just be authentic and be you.
Sumit, what about?
Yeah, I'll just second to what Chanchal had also said, which is uh, as in get the inputs right. Yeah, what is the point in overthinking कि मेरा resume shortlist होगा कि नहीं, मेरा what should I put in my resume so that it gets shortlisted? Absolutely. See, as long as you've done, you 10th mein you've done well, 12th mein you've done well, you've got to a college, you've done your studies well, you've worked on projects, you've got to do the things, and you've done those well. You have your talking points. I think there's absolutely no thing to stress out. Most important thing is to believe in yourself. Yeah, I think you need to have trust in yourself that whatever said and done, if there is a person who believes that I'm a fit for them or I'm not a fit for them, whatever it is, whatever the other person believes, it's not a reflection of you. I think your reflection is your own reflection, your own perception of what you think. So just don't overthink. Just do your things right. Just work on the right things. Know what to do. Absolutely, you need to know. For that, you need to have clarity about what to do. So get those information right and work on that. And at the end of the day, it just doesn't matter. Everybody figures out things for themselves in their lives. So yeah. So do the right thing and trust yourself. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much for your discussion, panelists. We are taking forward your piece of advices and will definitely execute in real lives.
Absolutely happy to help, and all the best
So, thanks.
to
All the
everybody.
best.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank you to our panelists for those fresh, forward looking insights. And now we shift gears to one of the most coveted parts post MBA, which is consulting. Whether you are eyeing McKinsey, BCG, Bain, or just want to build the razor sharp thinking they demand, this next session is for you. We'll uncover what makes a candidate MBA ready, how to crack those cases, and what mindset separates the good from the exceptional. Let's get into it along with Darpan Jain, consultant from Brain and Company, and Shubham Goyal, senior associate from BCG, along with Neil and Ishita. Over to you.
Hi Darpan, hi Shubhang, hi Ishita. Ishita, I think there is always a craze about consulting, mainly because of how vast the field is and how everybody wants to try their hands at it.
I agree, and there is a lot of hype around joining top firms and how to join them. I believe it is because it gives the right foundation to grow on.
I've also heard, Ishita, that how tough these interviews are with the guesstimates and whatnot. I really want to know how these interviews happen and what are the things one need to be prepared beforehand.
I think we are lucky that we have experts on board to guide us through all our confusion.
So let's break the ice by inviting Darpan and Shubhang. The rules are very simple. The answer should be one liner or one word. So let's break the ice by asking you what is the biggest misconception about consulting during the B school?
Thanks, Pavanjay. Thanks, Ushita, for inviting us. I can probably begin here. I would say a senior once told me, if you've made to MBB, then life is sorted. I would say after 4 years here, this is just warm up, and there's a long way to go.
Oh, great,
Yeah.
great.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Ishita. I would agree with that one that, one of the biggest misconceptions is that, consulting is just glamorous flights and luxury stays in hotels and fancy food, but that is just like, very small part of it. What you do in the other 90% of your time is actually what makes up way more of your day-to-day job. So a lot of things that you're told on campus, that's not how it exactly is when you start your work.
Yes, yes, yes. So describe in one word that how would you think about your first client meeting?
For me, I would say Razi, because I smiled, nodded, and literally took notes like my life depended on it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Say it was a bit exciting and also intimidating. Like I would use those two words probably. Like I felt I was fairly young, given the average age in the room during my first client meeting, during my internship at BCG. I didn't say anything. I was just, there like with the senior consultants on my team, and it was like a relatively senior level meeting. So it was a bit intimidating, but also exciting to be in the presence of those senior leaders at such a young age.
My next
Okay, so let me ask the next question. I am curious that if you have to redo your MBB interview, what's the one thing that you'd prepare the hardest on?
Um, Nothing yet, to be honest. I wouldn't want to give an MBB interview again. Once was enough. And good that we made it here. And the fact that we made it, I think we did something right. But if I had to give one advice or be very focused on one thing, it would be that it would not always go according to script. So whenever it goes off script or you're confused, just be calm with a smile on your face. It's about co-solving with your interviewer.
Yeah, again, I think, Darpan is bang on. Probably, I don't know if I would change anything in my like preparation or like how I approach the interview. Just one thing would be that, you should just like be open to surprises in the interview. You might have like prepared a lot of cases, but you might not even get, like, you might not be even asked a case. Like the interview might just be a very informal discussion, or, you might be asked a very complicated case where they might even ask you to like do something on their laptop on Excel also. So it can go either way. You should just be open to surprises and not get scared if something out of the box comes up during your interview.
Okay, so talking about the preparation, now hopping on to actually being a consultant, what was that one experience where you realized that you were actually a consultant?
I think for me, it was around class 11, 12, first year in college when I actually started venturing a lot outside academics and participated in quiz competition, mock stocks, etc. And that gave me a very good real life flavor of how uh, not exactly like what consulting is, but sort of a trailer as to how it would be. Um, and the second thing was when and that's when friends told me that I started saying it depends a lot in my real life, and they said you're a consultant material.
So, probably like answer it in two parts. One, like on a serious side of how you or when you realize that when that you're doing like consulting stuff is when you kind of see the like a tangible impact of the work that you do. I mean, I've had like a limited experience currently. Like I'm just about to complete a year full time at BCG, but on a lot of pieces that we work on, sometimes it's good to see that whatever you suggest, once it's implemented, it is impacting a significant chunk of people and lives of your client. So that is like a good thing. On an informal note, though, the syntax of your language changes a lot. So you'll start using a lot of words like say bandwidth or circling back, like you see in the meme. So because that is the language that you're speaking 5 days a week at work, that language does kind of move into your weekends as well. So that is something that your friends and people from outside the consulting world will notice, that some of the words that you use, your grammar kind of changes. So that
Yeah.
is when you probably realize that yeah, you're a consultant.
So
Yeah,
now
and
that
that's
we
very
know,
involuntary.
yes, yes,
I
please,
was saying
please.
that's very involuntary. You won't actually realize it, but when friends pointed out to you, you'll realize, oh, this is something seeping into our personal life as well.
Sure, sure, sure. So now that we know, and now that we know that what ensured you that you are finally a consultant, let's move to the next segment to discuss how are the some of the genuine questions that we as students face and have before opting for a consulting role. So my question would be, what are the skills developed during MBA directly translated into consulting success? So, and which ones did you have to build from scratch while you're on the job? So, Darpan and Shubhang, if you can take this up.
I think
Hmm.
I can take that up to start with. So from skills that that carry forward from your MBA, I believe that a lot of the hard technical skills that you learn during your degree, PowerPoint and Excel mainly, maybe some other softwares that you might be exposed to if you take certain electives, those kind of carry forward into your day-to-day job. In MBA also, you have like a lot of subjects. I think in IIM Bangalore we had maybe some 50 courses across 2 years of the MBA program, and in all of them you would have some group project. So you would make like a lot of slides, you would do a lot of PowerPoint. A lot of those courses would also have some Excel work involved, and that is essentially which something that also carries forward into consulting. Also then specifically some subject areas I think also help, maybe strategy and finance, not exactly how you study it academically in college, but a lot of those concepts are applied in one way or the other when you're kind of building strategies or trying to solve problems. Some things that you have to kind of build on the job. I think the first and foremost in consulting, especially in front end consulting, would be client management. That is something that I think is very new for people say who are doing consulting for the first time, or those who are new to the world. You have to you get like a lot of exposure, as I was also alluding to in my previous answer. But then you also have to learn how to manage clients. Some of them can be more challenging than others, some can be more helpful. So you get exposed to a wide variety of clients, and just handling them to kind of ensure that you get your work done, but also kind of deliver things that are useful to them. That is something you kind of have to build on the job.
Okay, so moving on, I have heard a lot about the consulting mindset, but how does it show up in the day-to-day work problems, client handling, team dynamics, etc.?
Yeah, yeah. Probably I can take this one. I would say three, four things in particular that consulting has imbibed in me, which are substantially different from how I would go about problems back in my MBA days or earlier. And some of these might be vain terms, some of these might be core consulting terms, so I'll dumb it down also. But first would be sort of answer and results first, right? Which means that you have to be very hypothesis driven in problem solving. Means You go in with an initial answer based on your existing knowledge, based on a very quick search, based on experience of your leadership. And don't boil the ocean to just start. You start with a smart hypothesis, break it down logically, and then test it efficiently, which can include questioning your clients, research based on that hypothesis, rather than just beginning Googling and boiling the ocean. Um, Second would be 80-20, which is think about every one of us might have heard, right, how 20% of drivers cause 80% of the outcomes. And so you have to think about those key needle moving parts of the problem or the solution. And sometimes it's very important because of crunch timelines that you actually don't aim for a perfect solution, but aim for the best solution possible in that given time frame. For example, in one of my earlier cases, we were looking at a cost reduction across a very large company, right? And there were very few resources on the team, the timelines were crunched, but the client wanted an answer. So we started off by identifying those two, three key drivers that would contribute to 70-80% cost and delve deeper into those versus analyzing six, seven others that were not as important for that duration. So that's also one important skill set, I think, given the fast-paced nature of the job. Third would be structured problem solving and a 1,000 feet view, which means break all problems down logically in structured buckets. Yeah, the client will always know more than you about the industry, about the specifics. So your value add is actually to structure it in a manner which they might not have been able to do till now. And look at the 1,000 feet picture, which is look at the strategic 5 year, 10 year down the line picture, which a lot of the clients might not be able to focus on because of their day-to-day responsibilities. Unless you do that, they won't find value because you can't ever eclipse their industry knowledge. And lastly, a very brain specific term is true north, which means suggesting what's actually best for the real goals of the client, even if that means going against their hypothesis and going the extra mile to prove that your answer or your suggestion might be a little more beneficial to them in the long run.
Fair, fair, fair. So now my question would be to you, Shubhang. What is the biggest myth about the consulting lifestyle or the work do you think that B school students need to unlearn early?
Okay. I think the myth is something that I was probably speaking earlier also, that when consulting is kind of presented on campus, like obviously there is excitement about the kind of problems that you would solve in the industries that you would be exposed to, but then there is an equal focus also on the perks that come with the job in terms of the travel and the stay and the fancy events that you might go to. But I think that is something that people, MBA students, will, like, they do end up unlearning or kind of not giving it as much focus very early on, because it wears off very quickly. You realize that all of those things are there, it's, part and parcel of the job, but like at the end of the day, those are just additional drivers to make you do your work better in a way. And a lot of these perks, they wear off in like a couple of months, because you are you're running around so much to various places and across the country as per the needs of the client, trying to solve those problems, that your focus really shifts from these things to the core problem that you're solving and trying to validate your various hypotheses and getting to an output in like the quickest time frame possible. So yeah, that would probably be one thing. Another one would be that often people go into consulting, like especially those who are coming from a non-consulting background, they kind of go into it with a certain way of working, and consulting operates very differently, because at the end of the day, it is a client-dependent job, and the requirements and the deliverables, they change very frequently. Like you might be working on something with a plan for the next month, and 2 weeks into it, the what you need to deliver might just completely alter, because some board meeting happened, or some investor said something. Things change very dynamically, so you need to be very open to these changes and this ambiguity in like how your work streams might flow and how frequently they can kind of alter. So that is something that people might have to unlearn, especially coming from more structured industries where the work plans operate on longer cycles of like say 6 months or 1 year. So those are two things.
Sure.
Okay, so my next question is for Darpan. Talking about these schools, what do you think? case comms, life project, leadership positions, how important they are into getting noticed by your dream company or dream consulting firm?
Hmm. Uh, Good question. A lot of people ask this to me personally as well. And simple answer is that they're not mandatory, but they do help and actually help a lot. In two things in particular. One, genie in the box, they do enhance your CV, right? They are signals that you're already thinking and operating in a consulting like way for the recruiters. And two, uh, if you go behind the scenes and understand actually what it takes to get shortlisted in a consulting firm, they actually prefer a very all-rounded CV which has spikes across multiple sections versus one section. Let's say an academically dominant person who has been acing it all his life in academics, getting top GPAs. They would actually prefer someone who has done it across multiple levers and horizons, which means that if there are four sections in your CV, academics, extracurriculars, leadership positions, and work experience, you should have something to show that's a spike. And spike meaning you should be in the 5 to 10% of the people applying for that job through that CV point. Uh, and this is where case competitions, live projects come in, right? If you've won a national, global level case competition, that means it's a spike in your extracurricular section. If you've played cricket at the national level, that means it's a spike in your extracurriculars. If you are, let's say, the president of the consulting club of your college, that's a spike in your leadership position. It's an objective enhancement of your CV. But all these also give a signal to the recruiter, like I said, that you're already thinking about it in the right way. And second is personally, apart from your CV, it also helps you build a very good consulting problem solving mindset. And I'm sure a lot of people who do case competitions, even if they do 2 3 case competitions, they will understand how different they are from your actual academic work. And once you have that experience, you will start to appreciate the art of problem solving a lot more, even if that looks very different when you actually enter a consulting firm.
Okay, I think that answers my question correctly. So, moving on to make sure that we have not missed any of the questions, we have also invited few of the questions from the Ignite registrants, and we are going to take them one by one. So, my first question is there any specific case competitions, skills, or resume points to keep in mind for your final placement?
Mm, Not Not really, I would say. There's no specific case study competition. I think there are two parts, right? One is your CV here, obviously. So your resume points, A, should be well drafted, and like I said, should have aim to have spikes in all the four sections that I mentioned. Uh, Two is anything that you consider as a spike will obviously peak and test in the recruiter as well, which means you can be quizzed on that during the interview. So you should be prepared for, in the ideal scenario, each and every line on your CV, but especially on the points that you feel stand out from others. So just prepare well for that so that it looks like you are actually deeply involved in that particular CV point and you did something that was material to your learning and to the actual result.
Sure.
Shubham, do you want to add something?
So kind of agree that I don't think there's any specific case competition, if that's there on your CV, you would get any extra preference. I think Darpan covered it well, well-rounded CV is what the recruiters mostly look for. They would, probably want you to have consistently good grades across various levels of your education, and then, something extraordinary that you have probably done in some other aspect. That could be a sport, it could be some extracurricular activity like quizzing, debating, it could be anything, could be dancing, whatever. Similarly, some POs, but not any specific case comp as such, or any project. If you have them, sure, it's good to have, but I have seen enough batchmates and enough people in my circle get through even without any case comp on their CV, and just a well-rounded CV otherwise. So I don't think it's a mandatory thing.
Hmm.
Okay.
So now that we are sorted with the skills and resume, how do I actually get an internship in an MBB in my final year of bachelor's degree?
I'm not sure how it exactly works at the bachelor level. I think MBB specifically, I think hires only from a few colleges at the bachelor level, maybe some IITs and some other colleges. At the MBA level, also similarly, they hire from six, seven IMs and then XLRI and FMS and maybe a couple of more colleges. So directly, I don't know how it exactly works at the UG level, but I'm sure if people have a good profile and if they have some good consulting experience in some other firms, they can probably apply laterally through through the company career portals or through a referral with someone already in the firm. But yeah, through campus at the UG level, barring some of the target schools that these companies go to, I don't think whether there is any other way. Probably that one you can add if you're available.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think there are two types of campuses, right? Target campus where MBB themselves come, interview and take, and non-target campuses. Obviously, better to be there in a target campus and get a direct shot. CV and interview prep are essential for both. The only thing that gets added in a non-target campus is that you actually have to go out of your way to look at career portals, to network with people already there in the firm to get referrals, etc. I think other basics remain the same.
Okay.
Okay, so taking forward from bachelor's, I think next key question is what is considered to be a relevant work experience to break into MBB? And how can one build a profile tailored to consulting roles while pursuing an MBA?
Yeah. So on this also, just like that question on case comms, I don't think there is any relevant profile that consulting looks at. Like, if you would look at the demographic of people that end up going into consulting, if I just say take the example of my batch, they were people who had say consulting work ex pre-MBA also. They were also people who had done software engineering jobs who also ended up in consulting. There were also people who came from backgrounds like journalism or pol science who also ended up in consulting. So I don't think it's necessary to have a certain work ex in a particular sector pre MBA for you to get shortlisted. It's more of like how well rounded your CV is, whether you have had relatively good grades, and whether you have those spikes in the CV, whatever field they are in. During MBA, how you can probably build on it is that if you feel that your profile is probably lacking in one of these four or five buckets that are there on your resume, you can work in that direction. For example, if you feel that your co-curriculars are maybe relatively on the weaker side compared to your peers, you can probably pick up an activity during your MBA or focus more on some sport or something like that and try to take part in like the inter IM sports competitions or stuff like that. Similarly, if you feel you're lacking in this leadership positions, you can try to actively work hard to gain some POR for like a club in your B school. So you can definitely work on areas that you feel are weaker. But again, there's not much that you need to tailor besides just having four or five spikes in your CV, which kind of make you stand out, whatever field they're in.
So Shubhang, this makes me assume this makes me realize that it's pretty much difficult to get into an MBB if we are not from a black eye. So how a non-black eye colleges can lead this? Because you are saying that spike should be there, right? So how to create that one?
Yeah, I think it's not just black eye. Like I think with like in the past couple of years, the consulting companies have been increasing the pool of colleges that they hire from. So now they're also going to some other IMs and some of the older legacy B schools, non-IMs like FMS and XLRI have also been there. And as Darpan was saying, the building the spikes in a CV is something that you would have already done even before you enter your B school. Like 80% of your profile or 90% of your profile would be set, and your CV would be locked because the summer placements happen like within 2-3 months of you entering the first year of your MBA. So there's not like a lot you can do during MBA. The black eye thing and the college thing just comes because these are the colleges that these companies visit to hire from on campus. If you are from some other campus, you might have to do that additional effort of networking and finding like open roles online or through other people. Probably they might not come on campus, so that is just the additional step. But if your CV is well rounded, you would be given equal consideration even through the other route.
Sure.
And if you can just add more on the, if you can spread light on the that referral program, how that works, and what are the openings, how that works, how should get after the graduation, how we can enter.
I think it varies company to company. Some of the companies that I am aware of, it's very simple. You just have to reach out to someone already working in the firm, and they have their employee ID, and you have a job ID, so they can refer using their employee ID on that specific job ID that you want to get a referral on. You just need to share your basic personal details and your CV with them, and they can like refer you forward. A referral basically, just kind of, I mean, it's, obviously not like a guarantee. It just kind of gives you probably an additional opportunity when the recruiters are, say, going through 500 CVs. Maybe, yours might come up higher on the list. That's about the benefit that might come out of it. But you still obviously have to give all the due rounds of the CV shortlisting and then the interviews and so on and so forth. Might be different in like Bain or some other places. Maybe, that one can add.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one thing to be kept in mind while asking for a referral is uh, don't expect a short referral or a call from the firm, right? For example, uh, I have been approached for hundreds of referrals at Bain in the last 4 years, especially in times when there was actually explicit hiring going on outside campuses. Um, Now, you a consultant will receive hundreds of these CVs, but A, don't expect that they reply to everyone. And second, if you're seeking a referral, then it's your duty to actually put your CV in a shape that the consultant working in the company actually actually feels that it can be shortlisted. Now, because why referrals work is a employee in the company is actually stretching their leg out to recommend an employee, to recommend a person outside the company, which is why companies trust this referral. And so, even if explicitly bad referrals or good referrals are not tied to a person, if it goes overboard and people refer every CV they get, then the qualitative value of their referral can decline over time. Hence, it's also very important for us to put in referrals that we actually feel have a chance of a fair shortlisting. So do that diligence beforehand. If you, I do a couple of sessions with seniors, with MBB people to understand if your CV is actually capable of making it. If you're not doing that and just banking on sending CVs to multiple consultants, that might not be the way to go.
Got it.
Okay, so talking about bulk applications and CV resumes. So from a recruiter's point of view, what are they actually looking for? What is an ideal candidate?
Yeah, probably I can begin on this and then Shubham can add. I actually, when I was involved in hiring for the first time, so which is the other side of the table, I was surprised to see that there's a very objective marking criteria, especially at Bain. I don't know about other firms, but I'm sure there will be. And I was involved in campus hiring in particular. So there's actually an objective marking criteria which is very fair. There's no chance of subjective bias coming in. There is obviously, but very little. So don't need to worry about subjectivity or luck being a factor here. It plays a role, but if you understand those objective markers, I think you can sail through. What are those objective markers? Like we have pointed out in a few answers before, right? There are 4 sections if you look at in your CV: CADs, work experience, co-curriculars slash extracurriculars, and PORs. Try and have a spike in each one of them. uh, there's no necessary need to go and have multiple spikes in one section, because if you have those 2 spikes, then that means you are acing it in that section. So rather than if let's say you already have 1, 2 national competitions, if you already have good PORs, etc., probably a good way of well-rounding your CV is to focus on the other bucket which does not have this spike, rather than adding more spikes to that particular bucket. 10 national case competitions are no better than 2 national case competitions, let me tell you, in terms of your CV. In terms of learning, they could be. So if you have those two case competitions, national level, so the company ones that are conducted in MBA or well-reputed ones that are conducted by global B schools, Indian B schools, then that's your ECA section more or less sorted. If you add to that a dance or a cricket or a sport, that can further add to it. But then once that is done, now focus on getting a POR, aim to be the president of one of the better societies in your college, aim to have a good work experience brand on your CV rather than just going deeper into that one section or one bucket.
Yeah, I kind of, agree to those points. It's basically an ideal candidate is one, where the CV has those spikes that we have been talking about. So, if like an ideal CV probably would be that in the academic section, there is at least one area where the performance was fairly strong. That could be like 12th grade or your UG GPA, or if neither of them, then maybe your MBA GPA, maybe you picked up there, or like, or, if you have, say, CFA L1, L2, or if you are a CA, or if you have some professional degrees, those could be academic spikes. Similarly, in WorkX, whatever your WorkX was, if there is some spikes there, for example, even if say you're coming from a tech background, but there, suppose you're coming from some tech company and you worked on a very exciting ML project, which had like a lot of impact, that is a spike, even if it's like a non-consulting work experience. Same for like PORs, being the president or some leadership role in a college society, or even like being in some volunteering role outside your college, also in some NGO. Those could be good leadership positions. And then finally in the ECAs, your extracurriculars, having some participation, and more than participation, some probably positions in some national competitions in singing, dancing, debating, quizzing, whatever hobby it may be. If you have like one such point in all those buckets, that will kind of get you sufficient points in those objective criteria that you will kind of become an ideal candidate. Obviously, then there would be some subjectivity when your profile is looked at as a whole, but broadly, it's fairly streamlined on how most of the consulting firms hire, and it's along these lines.
Sure, sure. So now that we have learned from your experiences, we know the hacks of the resumes and the skills that we want. Let's move to the last leg of the section. What would be the last one piece of advice that you want to write as a sticky note to every pre-MBA consultant aspirant?
So you said pre-MBA.
Yes, pre-MBA consulting aspirant.
Well, I would say think about the why, right? Consulting sounds very glamorous. Like Shubham said, a lot of people will point out the travel, the five-star hotels, the expensive meals, etc. But see, consulting is good for a lot of people because it gives you a generic skill set that's applicable to all aspects of your life. But you need to understand why you want to do consulting. And let me actually answer it the other way as to why wouldn't you want to do consulting, and that's when you are actually very focused, specialized, interested on one particular sector or a problem, right? If for example there are people who have their heart and soul in building a D2C brand, if that's what you want to do, if you want to build something from the ground up, I don't think consulting is the way to go. So if you already are well, you have that sense of what you want to do in life, which is very specific to a particular industry or kind of work, then consulting is not for you. So think about the why, because that actually will motivate you to get into the job. And then other things like preparation, reaching out to people, and then actually doing the job follow. But if your motivations are not in the right place, you might do all that hard work of getting in, but once you get in, you'll feel dissonant at the work that you're doing is actually not moving you to that goal in life. So that's a very important thing to think rather than just going along with the herd and applying for consulting jobs.
Okay, got
I
it.
think my advice probably would be just to focus on your controllables. When you enter an MBA, whatever your ambition might be, especially if it's to land up in a consulting firm, there are like a lot of things that might be in your control, but there could equally be a lot of things that might not be in your control, right? Like the preparation and like doing your case prep and guesstimates and all of that is in your control. Similarly, adding points to your CV is in your control, but your grades from your past life, like your 10th, 12th, UG grades, or everything that you have done up to the point of entering the MBA, a lot of those things are now no longer in your control, and they might be the decider on how the shortlist and all work out. So I would just say that you should just focus on your controllables, and it's okay. However things turn out, they will happen for the best. As Darpan was saying, every thing is not like a fit for everyone, and even if you do feel it's a fit, it might not work out that way. There are enough people who end up in consulting and then leave very quickly in like a couple of years. So you should not stress too much about probably I mean, there are enough stresses in a B school as it is. This will just be an additional one if you are very hell-bent on a particular company. Being hell-bent on a sector is okay, but being very specific on a company, I think, is just adding additional pressure. So you should not like be too worried about it.
So with this, we'll end the session. Thank you so much for your discussion, Darpan and Shumang. It was love to hear from you. Uh,
It was great interacting with both of you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, man. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thanks, Meet. Thanks, Ishita. Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was power packed. Thank you, Darpan and Shubham, for pulling back the curtain on life in consulting. Well, let's keep this momentum going on as we get into the stories behind the scenes. It's time for some real talk. We often wonder how do some students win big, crack case competition, and land PPOs even before the placement starts. Welcome to MBA Unfiltered, where you will hear from folks who have done it all. PlaceCom members, competition winners, and offer holders. Let's welcome Abhishekta from IM Bangalore, who will be joining Accenture Strategy, and Kashish Pragya from IM Koikor, currently working in Aditya Birla, along with Neil and Ishita. Over to you, folks.
Hey Ishita, I was always wondering about what goes in the placement committee in colleges. I feel like they are almost top of everything, trying their best to get the top campuses in college. Don't you think so?
I know, right? In fact, I know a couple of PPO holders that managed to participate in so many case competition and bag huge offers.
And maybe that's why we need to talk to them because they are the one who have been there, done that. And they have done that so well that they are right now with us to share the expertise, right? And with to keep this as a base, I would like to ask them questions, and the rules are very simple. So the questions, I'll ask questions, and you need to answer it in one liner or one word, right? So I begin with, what is your first ever competition in MBA, and how did you go about it? We can start with Kashish.
So my first competition was Coca-Cola Disrupt, and we were a campus finalist. It was a great learning experience since it was a real life problem that we were solving.
What about you, Abhishek?
So my first competition was Exemius. It was our college fest, and we mostly gave it for fun. So we did not even qualify, but it was a great experience connecting with people.
Okay.
Okay, so let's take a step back. One thing that you completely misunderstood about campus competition at first.
So for me, it was we can't give equal time to every competition and equal importance. Uh, like focusing even on one is itself a very huge task.
Okay.
Okay, what about you, Abhishekta?
So initially, I thought mostly case competitions are about prize money and resume building, but it's not about that. It's more about you know getting your skills more enhanced. You are knowing about each and every industry, and then you're developing your own skills. So always try to view competitions like that.
And if I tell you that you need to pitch why case competition is important for 60 seconds, what would you like to say to the pre MBA?
Well, it teaches you a lot. You have to form a team, you have to manage, coordinate with them. There's time management involved since you have a hectic schedule that is already ongoing, and it pushes you through challenges. And there's this grit, that is fueled by this adrenaline rush to win. But it's not always about winning, even when you lose, you always know that there's more room to learn.
Okay.
I totally agree with Kashish. So we are doing case competitions on top of our academics. So obviously, for some people, academics is their top priority, but managing this with academics is a bigger deal. And then formation of teams is also a big deal because you have to think of people who can coordinate well with you. So that way, you learn how to manage people, and then, as I already mentioned, you develop skills regarding industries. So that is a bonus.
Right, right.
Okay, so
Abhishek, you talked about management, right? I want to let's dive deep into this by the next segment, wherein I want to ask you why there is a personal balance required in terms of academics, case competition, preparation, social life in your MBA, right? Don't you lose mind or have any burnouts while the MBA is going on?
So actually, MBA tries to prepare you for the life that you will have post MBA. So normally you'll have like a very hectic working hour, and you're expected to do that. Suddenly, you won't be pushed into a company where you're just living your life for these 2 years, and then you're pushed into a company like that, right? So I think it makes sense where you have to manage everything together, but these 2 years are a full package where you learn everything. So I learned a lot of sports which I was not even aware of, like throw ball. Then I also learned about case competitions. I was also doing life projects along with my academics. So that was something which added, I mean, you need to do these things, and even if some people don't do it, they develop a lot of FOMO. So that is something that is there.
Sure, sure, sure. You would like to add, Kashish, something here?
No, like I totally agree with her. And you also asked that how, people can usually burn out, right? Going about all these things. What they need to maintain is a discipline in their life.
Hmm.
I mean, everyone wants to do everything, but if they have that discipline, if they have that punctuality, and they crack the code to time management, then it's a easy sail to college.
Sure, sure.
sure. So I am very curious to know the answer of this question. How did being part of the place comp shift your understanding of what recruiters really prioritize? What do students often get wrong?
So, students often think that they should be a know it all, they should know all the answers, and that's not the case. It's not important to know everything that is being asked, but through your answers, it should show that you are willing to learn. There's more space that you to learn, there's room to grow. And usually students think that they can fake their way out of the interview. They try to develop a persona that is not themselves. They want to portray themselves as someone else. But what they don't realize is these recruiters are very very senior leaders, okay? And if there's no authenticity in what they're saying, they can just like that they can know that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
So
Do you
what
want
are
to add something?
So I'm
Abhishek?
not a case commerce, so definitely I cannot add anything over here.
So no problem,
Okay.
no problem. But normally, is there any difference in being a fresher and a candidate who has a prior work experience? So does it actually matters while interviewing?
So yeah, I can take it up because I was a fresher with 11 months of work experience. It's usually considered to be a fresher in MBA colleges. So if you have a stellar profile like 999, you will not have face much difficulty. I mean, because you will mostly get consulting shortlists, which are day zero shortlists, and you might get through it. But if you do not have a stellar profile or a background, then obviously you need to have a lot of, because in my case I had a lot of extracurriculars, and I had a lot of competitions that I had already participated during my UG colleges and all. So I could actually put it over there, and I had done a lot of internships even with my college and with other colleges as well. So I was able to put those things in my CV. So that really helps. But if you're a fresher, I've seen most of the people, they try to repeat their points on the resume, which is not a good idea. Ideally you should not be repeating, but because when the recruiters will be looking at your CV, they'll think that this person is not serious, or this is just a fake resume. So don't try to create that image.
But is there genuinely a bias in terms of the hiring side? So let's say if there is an interviewer who is interviewing two candidates,
there would be some bias whether I'm interviewing a experienced one or a fresher. Is there any in the company's point of view? Maybe
Yeah.
from your friend's experience.
So, for the consulting firms, as I said, academics matter, but for marketing firms, they will prefer freshers. So, because people with lesser work experience, because they need people who have good ideas and those who are not just driven by industry, those who know the nuances. They want someone who's very fresh to this place, and so there you get a chance. But otherwise, in different companies, you have to. Other companies would like to look for someone who aligns with their goals, like someone working in supply chain would definitely want someone who was there in supply chain, and that makes sense for the company point of view.
Kashish, you want to add here? You are a place commer, if I'm not wrong.
So, with respect to actually marketing, I agree about the other points. But with respect to marketing, I have seen that people, even with 3 years of work ex in, let's say, software engineering or any technical or non-technical background, have also gotten into marketing firms. So, I think what stood out for them was they knew how to interact with people, they knew how to deal with people. If you're getting into a sales or marketing profile, you need to showcase that skill, that you have that command over people. You can communicate well, you can deal with them easily, even if they're more experienced than you can have a hold on them. So I think that's what worked for them even after having work ex.
Sure.
Okay, so we have discussed recruiters' perspective. My question is directed towards Kashish. From a place commerce perspective, what do you notice are the major mistakes that students make, whether in terms of shortlisting, interviews, team selection, or whatever?
I think first thing is tell me about yourself. It's a very important question. People tend to ignore it. People do not prepare for it well. So then during the interview, students tend to have this difficulty in explaining their own life story. I mean, it's your life story. It should seem effortless. Even if you're going crazy in your mind, like, okay, what should I tell, what I shouldn't. But it should at least seem effortless while you're telling. And moreover, during this, they forget to leave a room for curiosity for recruiters. Right? If you tell everything and cram everything in one answer, they wouldn't really have any more questions for you, and you would have lesser time to explain everything. And mm, and there is also this thing that people think that case preparation like is only required for consulting, right? It's not the case. When you prepare for case interviews, it gives you a structured thought process, so it helps you in any kind of interview that you're going to sit for. So everyone should do some sort of at least case preparation, even if they're sitting for any kind of role that they want.
Okay.
And I also heard that place commerce deal other students as their confused babies in terms of preparing them for resume. So, what are the pointers which you feel that genuinely makes a difference and get those top companies to attract? So, if you can just share light there.
Okay. So, see, first of all, you do not need to lose sleep over the things that you can't change now. You are already here. What you have done already, that is there in your life. Now, what you need to focus on is how you can portray it, that it shows the impact of the things that you have done. Right. So, if you were working with 10 people in the team, you can tell about how you are a team player, how you have managed the team, or if you have worked on a big project, you should also tell about how that big project impacted your client or whoever you were working for, right? So showing that impact matters.
But do
uh,
you think there are some mistakes which students do that you don't want the candidates to do while building the resume?
um, so I'll tell you an incident, like one of the funniest thing that I've come across, that in order to inflate the numbers, in order to show the highest impact possible, the reported impact that the student showed was higher than India's GDP. So I think you should be mindful of what kind of impact you're showing, how much impact you're showing, and is it even feasible?
Okay. You want to add something here, Abhishek?
So I agree with her. So the recruiter does not know you anyways, and it's just like 15-20 minutes he's sitting in front of you, and your resume speaks about you. So you should be very very thorough about what you have written. And I know people, like when we were preparing for summers and even finals, people do not take this seriously. Like resume prep is not taken seriously because mostly they are busy with case study or GD preparation or anything else. So mostly I would say that even if you are planning to sit for SIP or something, just be thorough with it and do not write repeated points, as I have mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is directed to both of you. Do you notice any particular changes in the recent placement cycles, maybe in the CV inflation, brand preference, or even domain shifts?
So I think with respect to domain, people are still crazy about consulting, but I think the preference now also lies towards product management these days. And I'm not sure about brand preferences. I've seen people going crazy about MBB, but since product management has also come into play, so people also want to get into MANG companies like Meta, Amazon, Apple, Netflix. Yeah.
Mhm.
What I
Okay,
think is
that's it.
during summer placements, most of us are not are clueless actually that what do they want to get into, and most of the people, as Kashish already told, the hype is around MBB, so most of them target that and consulting. But as you proceed towards your MBA journey, you start learning that there's more to it. So there are people I know who genuinely wanted to go into general management, wanted to go into marketing, leaving consulting. So you need to take your MBA cycle not as a placement machine. Just go into that journey thinking that you need to learn, you need to network, you need to make good friends over there.
Sure. So, to make sure that we don't miss any of the important questions, we have also invited questions from our Ignite registrants. So, we are going to take them one by one. Starting from how to prepare for summer internships. Being a fresher, I have nothing to add to my resume apart from certifications. So, what is the one thing that can make me stand out of the crowd?
So one thing I would like to say is there are many. First of all, if you're getting into an MBA, do plan for your MBA. That is very very important because most of the people who do not have anything to add, they have things to add like CFA or FRM, something like that. And normal certificates from Coursera would not actually help. And if you are trying to add something, it should be meaningful. Like for general management, mostly they will try to look into good leadership roles that you've played in your UG college or maybe in school. So you can add something like that. And being a fresher, try to add valuable points to your internship. Just don't put anything in your internship plan, and try to maintain it try to keep it very balanced. So it should not look like the CV is of a fresher. So usually what happens is the CV is divided into two, three or four sections, which comprises of extracurricular and other points, and even work is a considerable point. So try to keep it like 10 to 15 points at least.
Okay.
But do you think there is, do we need to create some differentiator in our CV when we are aiming SIPs or something? Because there are peers also who are making a great CV. There should be some differentiator, right? So what it should be?
So there's a choice of keyword that you put. Mostly, what happens is if I'm aiming for a business analytics role as compared to consulting, so I try to choose words which suits more business analytics role. Like I'll put data science, machine learning, something like that on my resume so that it stands out over there. And for consulting, I'll try to frame it differently. So if you are preparing your CV and if you want to particularly target for some sector, try to create multiple CVs, I would say.
The place comma needs to add up here something.
So, I mean, yeah, being a fresher, it's not a disadvantage that people think of, right? As she said, you should plan your MBA before getting into it. So, after you have gotten the admittance in a college, what you can do is at least do an internship with a, let's say, an NGO, which would be easier to find as opposed to go out and do an internship with an MNC and beat your head about, oh, no one is replying, how will I get this internship? So at least go out, do some work with an NGO or something, and Apart from that, you need to prepare well. Okay, everyone who is coming to MBA needs to prepare for their SIPs. It's not that they also know what is going to go around in SIP. Everyone is as clueless as you. Don't think that anyone has any advantage over you. Just be confident in yourself, prepare well, prepare your answers well, especially CV preparation is required, because as a fresher they won't really ask you about your work ex, which is not there. So
Sure.
apart from that, other walks of your life at other places, let's say even if you organized a wedding, okay, it's your sister's wedding, you organized it, you took the complete charge, and it was a full shosha that you did. Tell them
Hmm.
about that, because that also shows your leadership skill, right?
Fair. Fair.
That was actually a new point. And as Neil has already introduced the place commer thing, I want to know if being a place commer is actually worth all the hassle that you guys go through.
See, there is no yes and no answer for this, okay? For me personally, it depends on what you are looking for before joining PlaceCom. So for me, it was like if you want to grow personally, professionally, emotionally, and you want to understand what is the level of resistance that you have. So I think it's a great place to start with. The long
Okay.
nights, the efforts, the hard work that we have put in, it actually pays off when you see that the batch is placed, because it's again the product of your work that is there. So it feels really delightful. And if you were to ask me, will I do it all over again? Definitely yes.
Oh, nice. Nice, nice. So I have one question here. So we normally talk about case competitions. Let's add resume pointers of the participation. So let's say there are many candidates who have tried case competition and they'll add a CV pointer. But what is there to actually win that competition? Can you guide about that? So how do we win a case competition?
So
Strategies,
I've
if
participated in a lot of case competitions. So one key takeaway is don't try to force fit your solution into any of the frameworks. That is something that most of the people usually do. What you
Mhm.
should be doing is try to learn the art of storytelling through PPTs, and that is not being taught. What you can do is you can just go through your seniors deck. That is what I did. Initially I had no idea what case competitions is because I was in a science college. So I used to see how they made their PPTs, what the problem statement was, how they derived the solutions. Actually I went through like multiple of these PPTs, and then I understood how it goes about it, and then I started framing my solutions. So ultimately I won a couple of these case competitions, and it actually helped in my final placement.
but
Okay.
how to get to the right team? That's my question. So that's again a challenge, right? People are just quickly forming their team. So how to manage that?
So before forming team, you would have already experienced how they are when because there are multiple avenues for you to participate with people, especially in MBA colleges. You do group projects, you have multiple tasks, and you know how people are. Are you comfortable with those set of people or not, and what are their skill sets? So, for example, I might be good at PPT, but I might not be good at business acumen or some supply chain knowledge or something like that. So I'll make a group which has fair understanding of some of these domains. I mean, obviously nobody can be a master of everything, so try to form a team which has a mixture of these.
Kashish, you want to add something here?
So I haven't participated in a lot of case competitions. Given I was in Placecom, I didn't really had the time. So I don't think I'm the right person to actually answer this question.
No problem. No problem.
Okay, so first of all, congratulations, Abhishekta, for winning a couple of case competition. And now following up, I'm going to give you a scenario. Say I am a non-engineering science student without a corporate experience, and I have no clue what my niche is. So, do you have any recommendation or suggestion for how to find my niche, gain skills and knowledge in the process?
Right. So, for finding a niche, first of all, as I told you, I was also a science graduate. So, what I did was I started doing a lot of live projects. So, with live projects, I used to gain a fair share of understanding how things usually work. And also, your summer internship plays a vital role because then you actually work, you sit in an office and understand how things go. So first focus on your SIP. Second thing is do live projects and also do case competitions because it is necessary. You'll not get the chance to do case competitions again after your MBA life. So I think you should try to experience it fully. And also, I used to participate in a lot of sports earlier, like because just for resume purpose, I was doing during my first year. But then from second year, I tried to focus mostly on these case competition live projects, etc., which actually helped. So I think if you are a science student or someone with a fresher background, you should usually try to experience things and mostly try to take up courses which are relevant to you. So I took up courses in marketing, business analytics, and mostly strategy related, because that will directly not influence your placement process, but when they ask you during your interview, so you'll be able to answer it very confidently. So in that way it helps you.
Okay.
So I agree with her. There are a lot of things in MBA that you can do to get a hands-on experience. But apart from that, so let's say taking up courses might not give you a real life exposure, right? You might want to understand the POV of people who are already there. So definitely network a lot. Your immediate seniors, your like leverage your alumni base. You are already there in the college, right? You just have to reach out to people. People are willing to help. You just need to say, "Hi, I want to know about this." That's all, and they'll
So
be
Kashish, do you recommend people to join PlaceCom to get that networking opportunity and that holistic experience of MBA?
Lot many people are seeing you now. They'll ping you out for this.
see. I mean, why not? Why you should definitely try to join PlaceCom, because even the selection process of PlaceCom is so rigorous that you get all the flavors that you might see in your SIP. Although it's hardly a 7 to 10 day process, but it gives you everything and it takes every last breath out of you to get into it. So that is a different sort of experience. And yeah, and it is not just for networking purposes, right? You can always network as a non-place comer as well. I mean,
Hmm.
your network is your network. Your college network is something that you can tap upon. That has nothing to do with you being in placecom or not.
Sure, sure,
Okay,
sure.
okay.
So now that we have all the knowledge from the experts here, I would like to get into the final segment wherein I'll ask a filling the blanks and you need to fill those gaps. MBA is less about what and more about what. We can start with you, Abhishek.
So MBA is not about just being a nerd and staying isolated. It's more about being smart and networking.
Okay.
Whatever.
uh, so MBA is not about just the textbook knowledge that you get, but also about knowing how to ask the right questions.
Nice. So with this, we have finally concluded our discussion. Thank you so much for your piece of advice. It's really was a great session. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, both of you. It was great interacting with you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Wow, incredible stories, honest reflections, and a lot of inspiration. Thank you, Abhishekta and Kashish, for sharing your journeys. Now, let's move into something every MBA student is always working on, the perfect resume. Your resume is your first impression, your elevator pitch on paper. But how do you make it stand out? Welcome to Swipe Right on Your Resume, a session that will help you decode what recruiters really look for, what gets you noticed, and what makes you stand out. Taking this session will be Palak Gupta, alumni from IIM Indore and currently working in Accenture Strategy. Welcome, Palak.
Thank you so much for such a warm welcome. So, without further ado, let's quickly dive into the topic that we have at hand today. So, I know I've been already been introduced, but here, apart from that, I would also want to mention that I why I know so much about resumes is as the speaker mentioned that I have been a place commer. That is why I know what you need to do in your resumes to get those summer internship calls. Apart from that, I've also worked with brands like Dabur, Michael Page, and Aditya Birla Group in their recruitment department. So I know what the HRs are looking for. So I have a full packed agenda for you today. So it starts by why do you actually need a resume even before your B school starts. Then we'll talk a little bit about the format, the section, the do's and don'ts. Then I'll walk you through how can you write effective resume points. Lastly, we'll end it up with what is the action plan and what do you need to do now. So let's quickly jump into the first topic that we have. Why do you need a resume before B school starts? So when we are diving into this topic, it's very important to understand that your resume is something that you will need for all the internships that you apply for in your B school. Apart from this, the things that you have to do when your B school starts is literally a lot. You do not get time to do each and everything, and it becomes overwhelming. So some things that you can do before starting your B school is, I think, one of the things is that your resume. So firstly, your first impression matters. So when you're applying for summer internship, for club selection, and for life project, your resume is something that every committee club would ask you to give them that. And at that point of time, it would be very difficult for you to gather, think what I've done in the past, gather all the proofs and gather everything to put it in a resume format document that they will give you. So it will become very, very difficult and hassle for you. So having that first impression already ready is very important. Now the resume freeze happens within the first 30 to 60 days of joining. What resume freeze actually means: so your placement committee would start getting you your summer internship, openings, and the interview and everything would start within your first semester, trimester. But whenever all these things will happen, it's not like after your first trimester only that you will be asked to create your resume. You will be asked to submit your resume within the first 30 to 60 days. And resume freezing means once the resume you've submitted and it's been approved, you won't be able to change your resume. So for example, if you can't get any proof, that points won't be added. And let's say you do not get remember something, but you remember some things later on, then you can't add in your resume. So the resume freeze happen within the first 30 to 60 days of your joining. Also, see, we know B schools is a place where everybody in there is either as good as you or maybe even better. So to get in front of the competition, it is very, very important and very, very effective if you have already your resume and your narrative built from day one. Also, as I mentioned, it would be overwhelming. There will be a lot of things. You will be time starved, and it's important to get one of the most important things already done. Also, a good resume isn't just about writing, it's about positioning you well. Because see, as I mentioned, the competition and the peers that you will have would either be as good as you or sometimes even better. So resume writing is not about only reflecting what you have already done, it's also positioning yourself in such a way that it looks that looks like a hireable candidate. We'll discuss how to make you a hireable candidate, but for now it's important for you to know that it's important for you to position yourself as a good candidate. Now I have a snapshot of timeline here as well. So maybe it's a good idea to prepare your resume in June, July. You can have some peer reviews. You can have your resumes also reviewed by some mentors on Unstop as well. Then August and mid September is something your resume would freeze. And it would be important for summer internships, case competitions, and live projects and club and cell selection, as we've already discussed. And another point to mention here is that so for all the summer internship shortlist, whatever you apply for, and even for every club and committee, the first round of shortlisting, the first filter is always your resume. So that is something that would get you in in most of the places that you're hoping to get. So that is your ticket to having a good MBA journey. Now, the next important thing is talking about the resume format, the section, the do's and don'ts. So one thing you need to remember before you jump into this topic is your college will already have a resume format. Okay, you will be asked to submit your resume in that format itself. Some colleges, what they do is they already send you the formats and some guidelines for the resume writing before even the session begins. So because they also want you to get done early, but not all colleges will do that. So if in case you've gotten that format, it's great, you can prepare in that format as well. If not, you can actually go and ask the peers who have already been in that institute or who are about to join that institute, or you can simply reach out to me. I will also help you to get through the right resume format that you will need for your MBA journey. Now, the structure is something like this. So at the top there is usually a education section where you write your currently pursuing MBA, your previous, your undergrad, your 10th, your 12th, all these four. Then usually there is academic achievements. Then you usually write either your work experience or your previous internships. Then you write keep some key projects or academic projects. Then it's usually PORs. Then position of responsibilities could be the ones that you gain in MBA, could be the ones that you've gotten in your let's say college societies and even your school as well. So then you also have some extracurriculars, and certifications, and usually in the end you also get a section for volunteering or your hobbies as well. One thing to note here is that you can go as far as your 8th standard. That is the last that you can go to while when you are preparing your resume. So a good point to start is that you sit with your you sit with a blank word document. You note down these sections. Then you start writing what you remember, what kind of academic achievement I have in this section, what are the internships that I've done, what are the projects that I've done. So let's go section by section. Education, something that you all already know. For academic achievements, it could be some Olympiads, some let's say exam that you have given and gotten, in the first top 10 percentile, or in due, let's say you have gotten 10 GPA in that particular written examination. Maybe that is something that you can write. Internships, then again, it's important to have those internships and line projects already in place. For key projects, it's important if you have done some live projects, we'll include it here. But if you have not done those live projects, you can also add some academic projects that you've done. So for example, a teacher has asked you to write a paper, research paper on some topic. Even if it's a group project, you can categorize it that key project and make it in your resume under academic project. Then PORs, maybe secretary, maybe a normal member, also maybe house captain, school captain, anything we'll add in here. Extracurriculars, dance, school, music, art, sports, case competition, anything here. Certification, any certification that you have done will be mentioned here. Also, one thing I missed here is work experience. If you have some work experience, it's good to have it there. I will talk about how to write those work experience and what proofs later on. Now, the formatting tips. Mostly the formatting tips would already be provided to you whenever the college will give you the documents, but font and margins is something 10, 10.5 and 0.5 margin approximately. You don't use full stops at the end. Also, usually all the points have to be just one line. So it has to start from there and end there. Also, they don't like a lot of white spaces. So your resume point should, so it's usually a table kind of a format that they give. So starting from the one side of the table to, it should go to the end side of the table. There should be not a lot of white spaces between the end line and where your project point ends. And we will not use pronouns like I did this, I did what, I, you, the company, etc. We don't use these. There has to be consistent spacing, alignment, and build structure. Whatever they're giving, the right format, it's important to make sure that your points are already in that format. We'll talk about how to write these points in the next section, but this is something you should know. Now, what are the do's? We always start with the good action verbs or power verbs. So basically, power verbs is a high level action verbs that we use. All points should start with that. If you want the list of power verbs, you can Google it also. I also have that. You can also reach out to me, I'll give it to you that as well. We'll always add numbers and matrices wherever possible. So basically, quantifying your entire point to make sure, to add more value to it. We'll see how we'll write it in the next section. Also, I mentioned action verbs. So action verbs could be managed, directed, spearheaded, led, these words. And it's important that you do not frequently repeat those action verbs. So you will have a lot of them. Just pick and choose. Then is quantifying scale and frequency or result. So add numbers and matrices we talked about. We'll talk about how to add these in the next section. Stick to the template or style that has been given to you. Now only include verifiable and defendable content. Verifiable means, so the placecom only allows you to put only that data that you have a proof from. We'll talk about how to get these proof and what this proof look like in the coming sections. But to the next part of it, which talks about defendable content. So it takes us back to the second and the third point where we're talking about, that we need numbers, we need quantifying data. So let's say I wrote that I did social media management for XYZ company, and their follower counts increased 200%. So this is a defendable content, okay? Because you can, an interviewer, what they will ask you that, how did you come up with this 200% count? I will say that before me doing this for this social media for this their Instagram account, they had only 200 followers. But now they have 600 followers, which is 400 more, which is 200 times more. Okay. Then don't use worked on, help with. We'll use good power verbs. Don't use vague outcomes. Now then, defendable content, defendable results should be there. You cannot just go up and say that, I worked on their social media and now they are getting 300, 400 million impressions or views. But if that person just casually checks it, it's not there. So just write those terms and values that are not over the top. And if it's over the top, it has to be true. List activities without outcome. So for example, if you say, I just coordinated this event and it has, let's say 500, 600 footfall. If you write this, now this has outcome. But if you just say that I am just, spearheaded an event, that is it. Now, this is an activity without outcome. This would not make that much good of an impression. They usually do not ask you to mix colors. It's usually black. The font is similar. Symbols we don't add because it's just not professional. Fake or exaggerated facts should not be there. It should be backed by proofs. So now you know where to start with whichever things you would want to put in. Now you have collected those data. Now the next step that you will have is actually write those resume points. Now firstly you need to realize that now you have a good starting point. You have Gen AI to help you with that. I will introduce a format to you that will help you write those resume points. You can use this format and also plug in any Gen AI and get a good resume points after this as well. But it is very important and you need to make sure that you just don't blindly go cut, copy, paste it. It's important that you verify them yourself and put in some human touch on it as well. And sometimes they make the points a little lengthy. You have to make sure that's not that lengthy. Now, we are using the result, action, and context format. This is a chat gpt or gen ai prompt I have written for you. You can use this as well. You can create your own version as well. So when we talk about result, action, context, we're talking about what is the result that happened in the resume point. If we can put it first, it's a good thing, which means that improved efficiency by this percent. Then we talk about action by doing this, which is the context. Context is you giving background about the entire thing. This is a format that is used in ISB a lot. But apart from this, if you feel like your sentence is getting a little longer, it's important to make where you can make the most concession is usually the context. Okay, now we'll see how this format actually looks in the action. Let's see the examples first. Okay, so when we talk about that organized college fest, this is something you have. Now we can't write this, right? We need to have the RAC format. Led a team of 15 members to organize 2 lakh plus budget cultural fest attended by 1200 plus students. Attended by 1200 plus students is the result. What did you do? Led a 15 member team. What is the context to organize 2 lakh plus budget cultural fest? Now this is the same thing that we're talking about, but we are adding a little bit of more numbers to it. We are starting with the power verb. We are, if they ask me in the interview that, how did you calculate that there were 1200 plus people? We had online validations. We had, sales from various counters. So that is something that I will defend this in an interview. Now, also, it's important to see that if you write organized college fest, that might not be that much good of an impression on the interviewer. But if you say this in a fancy manner, like using the RAC format, that here you are showing that you were a leader because you led a 15-member team by organizing a 2 lakh budget cultural fest which has 1200 plus students. Now it has clear actions, it is measurable impact, it is also, I can also defend it in grilling, and this is a point something a recruiter might be interested in shortlisting me on. So it has the result, action, and the context. You can use this prompt to get such outcomes, but it's important to give your human touch as well. Now if you did some research on digital marketing, how will that go around? Conducted primary research across 3 platforms, improved campaign CTR by 22% for a local NGO. Now improved campaign CTR by 22% is the result. How? By conducted primary research across 3 platforms. What is the context for a local NGO? This is the same sentence as before, but it's adding a little bit of more weightage. Now, again, you'll have to come back and check it has numbers. Yes. Will I be able to defend it in an interview? They may be asked, campaign CTR by 22%. How are you calculating 22%? Maybe you can talk about that before the campaign started. We did a simple survey. This was the result. Now the result has improved. So it's a 22% improvement because other things were constant. Now the last is something worked with senior leadership. Now this is something you might be in, work X, you've done this, maybe your internship, you've done this. So we'll write something like this: collaborated with the VP level stakeholders to design a cost optimization report across 4 verticals. Now why it's important to see this example is because now here I don't have any, money numbers to add, no percentage numbers to add. Now how will I make this more number efficient? I have added a number like 4 verticals. It still has a number which is 4, but it also is not adding too much extra weightage on this point, but it's still bringing home the point that I worked with senior leadership. Now you can also would have written collaborated with 5+ VP level stakeholders. This would also have added a little bit of more weightage to your entire point. Also, you might be thinking that we also want to write academic achievements, where it talks about that maybe you've done some olympiad. In the olympiad, how will you add numbers? You will add numbers by talking about that these many people participated in the olympiads. Where will you get that number, that how many people had gotten participated in that olympiad? It is usually available on Google, that in the mathematics olympiad in year 2015 these many people participated. Also, when you are let's say you have participated in a case competition, how will you add numbers there? You will say that we were the second runner up, which in this competition having 350 plus teams. Maybe you don't have the exact numbers, so maybe you can talk about you can check the registration. If it's on Unstop, you can see the number of registrations, or any other platform. Usually they do mention registration or any LinkedIn post. If not, you can just use a ballpark figure after searching that usually what is the number of registration that this particular competition gets. So this is how you will write your resume point. It's very, very important. You can always use GenAI, but make sure that you are still giving it your human touch. Coming back to the last section, which is what is your action plan now? We have talked about why is it important, what is a typical resume like, how will you write resume points. Now we'll talk about what you have to do. Now, draft your resume using B School templates. You can ask your seniors or alums, or if the school has provided, get one. So usually I also ask you to prepare a master resume. So usually in B School, your resume has to be only one page, or it can't be shorter than one page. It can't be longer than one page, exact one page. But I usually suggest that you have a master resume present, because I'll tell you what, when the process of actually going through your resume begins with your seniors in B schools or your praise club, sometimes they are not happy with a few points. So in that case, you usually had to remove a few points. When you have to remove a few points, you become very agitated. Now you know what to add there. But if you have a master resume where you have written each and everything you have done in your life, then it becomes a little easier. So when you are making a master resume, it's very, very important you have a document which has everything you have done. Once you have written it, it can be even 10 pages long. Once you have written it, you will choose which of the things I want to put in your resume. Then you will start framing the points according to the RAC format that we have discussed. But at least you'll always have a master document to go back to in case you need new points. Now, before we get to the second point, I'll try to talk about the third point, which talks about speak to former manager, extract measurable outcomes, which means that you can if you want, what is the number of efficiency have increased, or what is the achievement I have in terms of numbers. It's important to you can talk to your internship managers, you can talk to your work experience managers to get a few numbers, or if you have a little idea, you can put it according to the idea, because it's important to go when you have to gather the evidence. So usually you will have transcripts, you will have award certificates, will have internship certificates, you have letter of recommendations. But for some cases where you don't have this, for example, the academic projects you have done, for example, the exact points you are writing for your internships or your work experience, or for let's say maybe some volunteer work, how will you gather those evidence? It's very easy. You will get one person. So for example, I had to collect a few documents for ByteDance company. Okay, so what I did was, reached out to my manager who was still working in ByteDance. So usually their ID is at the rate of companyname.com or bytedance.com or whatever name.com. So you will ask them that, hi, I am submitting my CV for review to my placecom, and these are the points that I'm adding. You add the exact same points you're adding on your resume in that email, and you will ask them, kindly approve the points. Then you get on a call with them or ask them that, I've sent you a resume points, or I'm planning to send you some resume points, can you please approve those? What are the numbers I should mention, or something like that. And once they say that, they give you a tick mark of, it's approved, then you save that email, because that email you will take save that email as a PDF, and then that will serve as an evidence or a proof. Every certificate, transcripts and award you will have, usually they ask you to submit it in an email, and you have to make a zip folder out of it. So you need to scan and make PDFs out of everything. So if you do it right now, it just saves a lot of time. Then it's important to do two peer cycle reviews. You can get some mentors on Unstop. You can reach out to me as well. We can do that. Then it's if you then also get some time, it's important to plan. So for example, in an interview, usually we ask that, you did this internship, how did you come up with that number, what was the major issue you faced, what did you exactly do. So practicing it to explain in an interview makes it a little bit easier beforehand. You can always practice it with a mentor or a peer as well. So that is basically it, the things that you have to do before your MBA starts to get that swipe right on your resume. And if you do this right now, it would save you a lot of time, and it will put you ahead of a lot of competition in B schools. I was a place commer and a gold medalist. These are the things that I swear by, and it has helped a lot of my mentees as well. So don't hesitate and start doing these things right now, because these are the things that will get you the shortlist for your internships. So that is it from my end. If you wish to connect with me, you can scan this QR code and you will get my Instagram account.
Wow, that was incredible to dive into. I'm sure everyone here is walking away with a resume glow up in the making. And just like that, we wrap up an incredible day filled with learning, laughter, and a lot of clarity. From cracking dream roles to crafting bulletproof resumes, today was all about preparing you to take the leap. Thank you for showing up with such grace and clarity. Remember, your MBA isn't just about grades or placements. It's about the network you build, the passion you pursue. Until next time, be bold, be curious, be unstoppable.